hit hard, wiped everybody out, and disappeared as soon as we could.
My guns flat, only campus this grimy hat. Pocket Boulevard, give me that. I see time past them, flat and snacks is in these hands. They hate it, but love what the game is at. Each badge for those who want change, but ain't playing those. Ain't who I am, inspired, and I'll take a stand. But you know about pouring out that soul. I seen people come there to watch them go. I seen new ones replace each role. See me in the corner, I'm anti-social. Overwhelmed like ADHD brain, trying to maintain when they feel insane. Watch them gas and flame the truth, like you are target for the hate. They so grimy, they cap for days. People believe what they say when they tell the tale so great. It's cool to emulate. My style of ego had to rigor mortis. For my Pulitzer Prize, I'm here to get what's mine. Visualize wild, so my prophecy come to life. High esteem, feel divine. She worship Madonna style, like a prairie boat. Find the light in the middle of the night. What you know about pouring out that soul? I seen people come there to watch them go. I seen new ones replace each role. See me in the corner, I'm anti-social. What you know about pouring out that soul? I see people come there to watch them go. I see new ones replace each role. See me in the corner, I'm anti-social. Used to crave approval, now it's prove what to who though. Now it's luxury driven moves because I deserve it. I do. Now it's lovely how she loved me, how she hold me. This one know me and she showed me how to social, cause she growing when we growing. What you know about pouring out that soul? I seen people come there to watch them go. I see new ones replace each role. See me in the corner, I'm anti-social. I'm anti-social. I'm anti-social. See me in the corner, I'm anti-social. I'm tryna, 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 I'm tryna break away from a me to a we. I'm tryna break away from a me to a we.
That's right. Yup. Go Mary, go Mary, go. Let me tell you about a girl named Mary. High school's when she popped a cherry. Lunch line always sipping on dairy. Till she met a bad boy named Barry. Barry brought her to the cool kid party. Poured a drink, slipped her a molly. Mary's vision started getting kinda foggy. Next thing you know, she fucking everybody. With the Yo Gotti song playing in the background. Mary going round. Who's Mary? Mary's like a football pass in a class right behind the teacher's back. Oh no! Now she a nympho. Oh no! Neighborhood ho. Go Mary, go. Location on GPS tells ya. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Go. Mary, go round.
Say yes, forget about where it's landing. No regard, we take off to another planet. Play pen with no rhythm to understand it. See the stars, anything you want, you have it. Round and round we go, relentless automatic. Pound for pound the show, sweaty, messy magic. Down and out the door, ready to get at it. Blowing not even home, you know I'm in the passion. Say yes, say yes. Experience the best. Connect with excess. I rarely dip, but join this beautiful mess. Say yes, say yes. Come get the best. Mary, what's next? You'll never trip this round or relieve the stress.
Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go. Mary, go.
You should be.
I
You
mean,
should be
that's-
fucking. You know what I mean?
Nah, I hear you, but
You started doing that with the Montreal thing, which is like That
Facts,
makes sense, and that's supposed to be what it's supposed to be. You should have been
but
doing
like
that. That's
he
something
would
that,
just. But then it's
by
like,
the
do you
way,
go to
I'm taking credit for
McDonald's?
that. I'm taking credit for that. You know that, right?
You
Because I was the one
you
that
get credit. You get credit for a lot
I
of
told
things.
you, that. You know what I mean? I told you that's what makes every city pop off. You gotta be like, but in Africa, the continent, the entire continent of Africa, right? They were blowing up American artists for a long time. And when they finally stopped giving a fuck about American artists and started pumping their own artists regionally to every country in Africa and continentally as a continent and caring solely about African artists, that's when Afro beats cracked off. That's when WizKid cracks off. That's when everything cracks off.
Right.
There needs to be a level of like, we don't give a fuck what you're doing. We don't give a fuck what anybody's
I
doing.
will
We care about
say,
what we're doing. You know what I mean?
for the
And
first time in my adult life, with the way this whole tariff situation is played out and the overall tone, I really think Canadians may actually start to truly care about Canadian
support
shit.
the Canadian shit.
And I'm saying,
Good.
like, it might take some time for it to fully catch up at a media level, because currently, like, I mean, like there's weird like moral conflicts. Like, I drive for Uber, which
It's an
technically
American
is,
company.
but at the same, so like if you boycott Uber, you're fucking my paycheck, and I'm not pro that level of boycott. If we're being completely honest here, I have limits to my
I can
boycotting.
understand that. Let me tell you something. We're about to watch an interview, right? Are we live?
Yeah,
Are we?
yeah,
Yeah,
we're live.
right?
We've been live. I just rolled with it. We're
Yeah,
live.
nah,
Hi
cool. Let's just
everyone.
roll with it. Hey everyone. We'll say hello formally in a second. We're about to watch an interview with Shellyne Rodriguez, and she was just in my timeline telling all college, university professors that they should be walking out of their schools and boycotting. And I love Venus, Shellyne. That is my sister. I call her Venus, right? That's
Yeah.
how much she's my sister. I go back with her. Anybody else calls for that, you're getting a punch in the face, maybe a chop to the neck.
That's just.
The truth is that though, you know, I love her and I can empathize with her sentiment, I also understand that other people, you know, when you have children, you're thinking, when not only when you have children, you know, you have a certain life that you want to lead, you might not be in favor of heavy protesting. You know what I mean? Because you know that that might fuck up your bag. And she wouldn't agree with it, and she'll give you 100 reasons why that doesn't make sense. And I agree with her 100 reasons. But I also understand people's, you know what I mean, desires to be self-preserving and wanting to keep their lifestyles
Honestly,
the way
I
they.
know, just to like jump on that, I noticed this thing in corporate America where I call it the second house syndrome. So everybody can afford the first house they buy, and then inevitably you start making more money, and then you buy the upgrade house because maybe you have the second kid, and anyway, it's always family pressure, and now you got this next house, but this next house is contingent upon the new salary. And the new salary can't go away now. So you watch the person go from having a spirit and fighting to the most compliant person you've ever seen in your
Ever
life.
met. Also,
I've
these
seen
people
that.
are usually the ones that go from being liberal Democrats to then becoming Republicans because they're now their personal interests intersect with conservative values, and
That's a
that's
fact.
why they're concerned with crime. They're concerned with value of their homes going down or up, the stock market, all these things that maybe they didn't care about so much in their 20s and their teens, they suddenly care about a lot more in their late 40s and 50s. You know what I mean? So, you know, I get it. Personally speaking, I don't, right? Like, I'm very rebellious. I'm blessed to be in the position that I'm in where I don't have to, and I can rebel. I can do all sorts of things. And my company isn't a corporate company, and we hire ex-convicts, and I'm like brown and black people centric and first and foremost. And I make no qualms about that. Shouts to Groundwork for giving me the opportunity to be this way. Um, so I don't, I'm always speaking from like a privileged position.
Right.
But I can also understand where other people, don't
I
share
mean,
that.
because like it's arguable that because we don't have kids, and
Awesome.
there's no parent that's gonna prioritize things the same way as we do because they have kids. And
Yes,
honestly, as a parent, you probably should be putting your family first. And if you're not doing that, you're a
you
shitty
should.
parent. Even
Yeah,
if sometimes being a good parent makes you a shitty member of society, I don't judge you for being a good parent because that is your priority once you've procreated. And I mean,
right.
ideally you can be both, but if you're gonna pick one, pick the good
Ideally, you could
parenting.
be both. My father, I was just in Puerto Rico. My father was like bragging about being a lifelong Democrat, and he really has been a lifelong Democrat. And he's always argued, I always tell people that, like, my father, when I turned 18, he didn't take me to a strip club, he didn't take me to a bar, he didn't take me to get my driver's license. He didn't do none of that. What he did do is take me to he brought home a voter registry and
Mm.
had me fill it out and mailed it off so that I could be registered to vote, because that's how important voting is to my father. That's how much important politics matter to my dad. And
What's up, Lindell? And
I
Chris, I
grew up.
saw you.
What up, Chris? What up, Lindell? I grew up seeing my father whenever we would go to Philly or Camden, New Jersey, which are historically very impoverished and violent neighborhoods, similar to the Bronx. I felt right at home in those neighborhoods. The entire 80s and 90s, going to them, I would go to visit uncles. And while me and my cousins were playing, I would see my father, my uncles, all sitting at the dinner table, drinking coffee. One of my uncles, my uncle Frank, smoking cigarettes and um, passionately arguing politics. And now
Mm.
that I'm older, I realize, oh, my uncles were probably conservatives, and my dad was the uber liberal. You know what I mean?
No, but that's
I
actually like it's a blessing to have that thought. Like for those of you that do grow up with parents who are politically inclined, like my dad argued about Jesus, and not even like logical arguments about Jesus. These weird semantic debates, like if the church would go through the tribulation or not. Where like at a practical level,
My
it's
father
not
was
even worth.
super religious too. My parents were super religious too. It's just
But like
it
it
was
was
less
just that.
arguing about it. There
But it
was
would be like the arguments would be about the most ridiculous shit. Like not like how to impose religion or like live a Christian lifestyle or some shit like that. It would be like some abstract prophecy and if this prophecy would come true in this way or not. And it would be like hours and hours of like internet forum arguing because if y'all think Facebook is where this started, y'all wild in. This shit been around. Just and so like but it
uh,
was never like politics or anything. If anything, my dad would like believe Fox News and it would just kind of be what it is.
yeah.
No like real proper political like debate or anything like that. Like I don't really remember
There's a lot
anything
of
like
people
that.
nowadays that are like that. You know, a lot of people watch Fox News, and they're like the woke virus. Oh my God, the
Oh my
woke
god.
virus is gonna get me. I just watched while I was on vacation. I watched a hilarious video of like a podcaster talking about a friend of his becoming like this like anti woke dude, and like he's like this really amazing chili maker. Like he makes an amazing chili, and and they play pranks on each other. And he played a prank on his friend, and he was like, "You didn't know that like beans in your chili are very woke, and that like it all originated in San Francisco with the liberals in the in the hippie era of because they wanted to, he came up with some bullshit and this dude believed him, took beans out of his fucking chili when he's like the known chili guy who's been making chili for all his friends for decades. And like, and then his friend told him like, yo, I was fucking with you. Like what? And like he looked into it and like realized that his friend was fucking with him and he was like, yo, you took things too far. Like you need to apologize. Like, how dare you? And it's just like, how dare you be so absurd and stand by your absurdities so
That
absurdly?
is insanity. We live in a strange
Insanity.
time. It's strange, a strange
It's not a
time.
strange time. It's not a strange time. Like we
No,
were
you're
just
right.
saying, right? Like our parents, it's there's nothing new under the sun. Whatever you do has already been done.
Actually,
This is a quote from Nas that came from a quote from something else. I believe it's the Bible. And the point is that yo, at the end of the day, this shit just keeps on going and going.
no, that's a
There's
fact.
you know,
You know that
there's no
I
end to the
found out
cycle.
I found out today that in the 1860s there was a book that was glorifying pickles that went around that was considered a meme in the 1860s, and you would read this at a bar and see how far you could go without laughing when you were wasted. And I'm like, holy shit, people have been obsessed with loving and hating pickles for 120. That's like a real thing. And I'm like, holy shit, I gotta get this book. I'm like, but just to add to your point, we can see it all now, and like you might discover some trend that you're tapping into, but like chances are that is not new. It's not even maybe original. It's just a thing that exists forever. I'm sure 1800 years ago, people were having the same kind of dumbass debates about technology and everything, liberal, conservatives, all of it.
All of it.
Anytime change happened. But yeah, history be like that.
History, man. It repeats itself. It's got a funny way of repeating itself over and over and over again. Hitler was
Yeah,
just alive less than 100 years ago, and
a big fact.
here are people less than 100 years later, fucking doing Nazi hails. Crazy,
It is a lot. And you know what's crazy?
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Now
Look,
we have
what are the,
Elon Musk.
no, but like really and
Hailing.
truly on the whole front of Hitler, what people don't often realize is that if you were to ask what the most progressive place on earth was in 1929, when Hitler's party got created, they would have said Germany, because it was the most progressive place on earth at the time. They were the most liberal, they were the most open-minded, and then it took 8 years for them to have the evil man in charge. So it's just worth remembering that if we were to take any lesson out of history, is that is, you can all Google that shit. Go watch the movie Cabaret if you don't believe me about what old-time Germany was like.
Yeah.
That's right, Bonnie, a Liza Minnelli reference.
Is Bonnie in the chat?
I have no idea, but I assume maybe
Okay.
she might be. But if she was, she'll
What
appreciate
up,
that.
Bonbon, if you are?
If not,
Word.
oh well.
Well,
Um,
Lindell said it's not a strange time, but a stranger time.
it is definitely a stranger time with AI and everything. You'll actually, I don't know, shit's getting strange, bro. I found out that one of the advertising tactics today that companies are using in places like New York City where they spend money, and Florida, Lindell. The example is actually a Florida company. They put a truck out. So let's say it's a truck advertising like Zigzags or whatever company. So you see the truck and you're like, I bet. But what's really happening is inside the truck is a little transponder that sends out a signal and it pings your phone. And it's as if you went and did a Google search for Zigzag as far as your Facebook is concerned. And now you're going to see, yeah, this is real. I found an advertiser talking about this. And this shit's happening in your city 1,000%. It's not in my city because nobody's spending
New
money
York
here.
City. It makes sense to do it in New York City because there's so much foot traffic in New York City that
To
like
all
why
these
wouldn't you
phones.
take advantage? And you like if you drive, you've driven through New York City. If you were to drive doing that, you're literally pinging thousands of people as you pass them.
And
Like
then
why
nobody thinks
wouldn't you?
twice because you must see branded trucks and just be like, oh, that's a brand.
That makes me be like we gotta fucking get people to like ping Liddy Bros for us. Like what?
And then what they do is they follow GPS routes. So let's say you were throwing a show at whatever your next show is. You figure out the 5 or 6 biggest foot traffics from like local universities or things like that. And then you kind of set up a QR code campaign across that trail with like flyers. Anyway, technology's fucking crazy, but like...
Fuck your privacy, Chris. CC
Hold
said,
on.
but
Did
is there
you
not a convo to be had about
did you accept the terms and
privacy
conditions,
rules?
Chris? Did you accept
Dude,
the terms and conditions?
he
And the
accepted.
answer is
He
yeah,
accepted.
because you right
He
here on
accepted.
Twitch, Chris. You're right
You're
here
on
on
Twitch,
Twitch.
buddy.
So that's
And I
like
see you on
multiple
Facebook.
terms and conditions. You know, like
You
you
accepted,
gave
bro.
it up. You, like the rest of us in the whole world, were like, I want convenience more than privacy, which we do. Like, yo, do you know how many people I know where they live because I'm an Uber driver? Like...
Yeah.
Anyway, you want convenience, you get convenience, but it comes at a cost. You did accept to get rando pinged. You said yes to being experimented on by multiple of these companies as part of the terms and conditions. And then you found out about it 5 to 6 years ago when everybody found out about it, and you kept the iPhone or the Samsung. You kept the stuff just like everybody else. It's just how it is. Like,
Get rid of your phone and get a Nokia. Get a good old flip phone, Nokia.
Or like, yeah, some old school shit. And even then, you're still being pinged, bro. There are so many words you can't say on some social media platforms. I thought I was having audio problems one day. They were blotting out normal words like sexual, ha ha ha.
I mean, it depends. You know, like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, their platforms are so like Instagram, Facebook, X, are all, and Threads are all fucking go for it. Say whatever you want.
Yeah,
like this
and then
is
Facebook
like,
is...
you can
Facebook
tell
just
people
jumped
whatever
on
you
that.
want right now. Right
now, we can't post real Canadian news because that's illegal because of some fucking weirdo shit between Facebook and Canada. But I could make up facts about you right now, Flacco, and put it on a BBC website and post that, and it's wild legit.
It's not facts, but yes.
I said
Alternative
fake facts. Fake facts.
Fake facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, not
You
real
could
facts, but I
absolutely
could
do that.
make up some facts about you.
Yeah.
But they'll let me post that as news, but they won't let us post news. That's what Facebook does, Chris. And you live here and you know that. So it's like, what? Of course, you agree to play the game. We're part of the experiment together.
That's it, man.
But I guess, yeah.
Speaking of experiments, let's get into this interview with Shellyne Rodriguez. We'll do it at 1.5 times speed. Yeah, man, we hope you enjoy. This is an interview that we really, like, I know Holden and me both walked away like, man, that was one of the best interviews we've ever
100%.
had.
It is the best interview we ever did. She is such a smart person. Like, she's... Why is the quality so bad? You know, up the quality. She's such a smart person. Like, everything about the experience of dealing with her.
Oh, you got
crazy.
vidIQ there too, buddy? Don't have an account? Sign up.
No, this is on my Brave, so this is not my main browser. This is the browser I have plugged into the sound. Well, I have a separate browser that is not plugged into OBS. So this is just the OBS browser. Yeah, we got 1.5. It's open. Let me just maximize.
1080p.
Yeah, should be. And then I just turned on my mic, but let's run it, everyone.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself up. Podcast.
Bro, this is like at a level. Get the actual pieces up close, right?
Well, hold on, like,
you're about to see.
I forgot we started with this shit. Like, tell the people what that is, Flacco.
That's a black book. Shouts to that first piece that we had. Somebody put a Puerto Rican flag. Puerto Ricans, Boricuas, we as proud of our flag as the South is of the Confederate flag. The only difference is that our flag doesn't represent murdering and killing black people. Bang bang.
But basically, what's a black book?
A black book is a book where different artists and writers, graffiti writers, write small pieces. They also practice before they go out. So this piece that you're seeing right here that says Funk Dubious would be a piece that a guy would later on go out and put either on a wall or on a train. And he would practice what he wanted it to look like on a book before he went out and did it on a wall.
And this book is like, what, 30, 40 years old? This is from the 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
This is from the,
Or the
90s, I
70s?
think she said. Nah,
Yeah.
she's not
Was
that
it-
old. She's older than me, but she's not
Right.
that much older than me. So
But still, just to contextualize.
probably late 80s, early 90s for sure, somewhere in there. Somewhere between 88 to 96 this book was
So
from.
basically, this is on a graph side of shit when shit was popping off in the Bronx, and that's the art that we're looking at right now. And I just wanted people to know that this is like this was such a blessing to see in real life, because like you don't get to see this type of shit very often. So yeah. Anyway, that was all.
Right.
The
That's not me. That's not
fire, son.
Look at that notch shit, right?
Look
That's
at you.
Nah, that's this dude notch.
Fire, bro.
Top notch from
Yo,
Tweet.
the. That's how you know though. You knew some official artists. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you know.
We are back with another episode of the Perspectives Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Liddy Bro Flacco. This is Holden Stefan Roy. Say hi, Holden.
Hi, Holden.
And we are here inside of a beautiful studio with a fantastic, talented artist by the name of Venus.
Nobody calls me that shit no more.
Wait, okay, wait. All right, so wait, no, don't. Let me do it again. Let me go off of.
Shellyne.
So go by your
Government. We grown now.
We grown now. Right.
Only people call me Venus. I'm like, knuckle up or give a hug.
Yo, let's keep this. This is fire.
No. All right.
No, yeah, no, it's cool.
Okay,
it's cool.
we can keep
Venus,
that.
yeah. Only old heads call me Venus.
Okay. So I'm an old head. Now you guys officially know how long our friendship and brotherhood has been. Sisterhood? I'm cool with being a sister. If you're cool with letting me be a sisterhood.
Bro, I'm good with all pronouns.
You're cool. Okay, all right, cool. Word. All right, so we are here with a legendary Bronx artist, a great friend of mine, and well, I mean, there's a lot of titles that you have, right? You are an educator. You're a community activist. You're a revolutionary.
I would say I'm a community organizer.
Because words are important.
Yeah, activists. I don't like that word that much.
Word.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah,
Not mad at all.
It's like it's like floating in the air. Like shows up for the thing, but doesn't do the groundwork kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So many titles. Shellyne Rodriguez.
That's right.
AKA FKA Venus.
Venus only for the old heads that know me.
I mean, listen, I'm no longer Dutch. But also
You'll always be Dutch to
I'm
me.
forever Dutch to all the homies that have known me as Dutch since I was like yay high. So it's just like I'm not similar. Where it's like it's fine coming from you. It's fine coming from people who know me. Somebody who just met me and overhears other people calling me Dutch, I'm like, nah, it's Flacco. Like,
Same.
you're not allowed. You're not allowed that privilege. This is a privilege
Exactly.
that is determined by longevity
Facts.
and closeness.
Facts.
Right. All right. So, Shellyne, I have to make a concerted effort moving forward. We like to start giving you a little bit of background on us. So I was doing pandemic year 2020. I'm doing a Liddy Bros album with Jess and with Paulie Hustle. And Jesse's a producer engineer. He's like, I call him cheat code because he knows how to do everything. He can graphic design, video edit, like all the stuff. But like for that project, I told him, I was like, yo, I need you to focus on being a rapper, being the artist, put all the technical stuff away. I'll get other people to do that. So like I got a production from producers I wanted to work with, and our engineer for the album that mixed down the album is from Montreal. He's a friend of mine from online, from La Mesa, and I gave him the album to mix down. He did a fantastic job. I always say he might as well be a New Yorker even though he's from Montreal because he's an engineer out there. You would think friendly Canadian, right? Like promotes everybody that he works with. Not at all. Typical New Yorker, works with a lot of people in the studio, does not promote any of them on his page. But he promoted us and the project that we worked on, and that got Holden's attention because Holden was like, you don't ever promote nobody or nothing. And he was promoting it with like Wild Love and whatnot. So he went and checked it. Holden had a YouTube channel of his own, has a YouTube channel of his own, and where he does like album reviews and interviewing people. And so he did an album review, like a super thorough, like a 45-minute, hour-long album review on the whole album, dissecting like each track without us asking nothing. You know what I mean? And it was just like, yo, bro, this crack. And I immediately, like a thirst bucket, was like, yo, we should do an interview. And he was like, I was actually planning on asking you that, but since you asked, yeah, sure. Then we did the interview, and I felt like I went to therapy because I realized that, like, as a rapper, I've never gotten to talk about everything revolves around my art instead of revolving around the story of me and what built me up to become that artist.
Right.
And that made me be like, yo, right, where like I usually wouldn't be keen on like working with a white guy from Canada and shit. He kind of broke a mold, right? And like I was like, yo, we should work together, and I'll bring some of my friends to the table and we interview them. And we're now like 2 years in, and at 70 something, this is, I'm not sure if this, we're doing the
we're between 75 and 80, and we're not sure the release order, but you're between 75 and 80 episodes.
Somewhere in there.
That range.
So we're pretty, you know what I mean? Like it's been a minute. It's been a journey. So that's our origin story. Now we want to get to your origin story. So can you tell the people where you are from and where your parents are from?
Sure. So I'm from the Bronx, born and raised. It's complicated. We'll get there. My people are from Puerto Rico. In 1957, in January, my grandmother migrated to New York City from Puerto Rico. She came with a suitcase in January, brought by a rich Spaniard who married a young Puerto Rican wife and who needed a live-in nanny. So they bring my grandmother from Puerto Rico. She's like 17, 18. She arrives and immediately takes everything out of her luggage and puts it on because it's January.
Word.
And ain't nobody had no coat in 1957 in Puerto Rico.
I just want to, like, when I passionately had a one-sided conversation about race, this is why I was saying I wanted us to put on Shellyne's interview. You know, the person that was arguing with me, the white man that was arguing with me about Puerto Ricans and their blackness and black Puerto Ricans and et cetera, part of his argument was like, oh, the census doesn't prove that there were a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York City in the 1950s. It's just like, I present to you, suck a fucking dick, shut the fuck up, stop reading censuses and believing that they're true and that those are the facts when we notoriously, historically, as a people, do not participate in censuses. So why would you?
If you just want to bring it back to today, the current U.S. government is restricting access to data and information since January 20th in order to skew things in the direction they want to go. So can you really trust the facts of a government willing to hide data? That's just my Canadian opinion. Anyway.
No, you cannot. Let's keep going.
Rico. Right. Unheard of. Right.
That must have been shocking to her.
Of course. Right. So arrives, stays in that job for about a week. So they're in Long Island, and you know the family is sitting in their nice vehicle while she's outside being made to like take a kid to the park, sitting outside. Okay. While this kid is playing around on a January, you know. So she immediately felt what this was going to be and left that job. Comes to the Bronx, meets my grandfather, who was already here. He had arrived here in '53.
Also Puerto Rican.
Also from Puerto Rico. Also Puerto Rican. My grandmother's like the white Puerto Rican. And she looked almost Italian.
Right.
My grandfather was Afro Puerto Rican. Definitely. You say some racist shit to him in English, he didn't know what the fuck you said, type, you know? But by the time he meets my grandmother, because he had been here 4 years already, he had learned English from his employer, who was an old Jewish man who taught him the electrician trade.
That's crazy. You just gave for many people who don't know and are unaware, New York City has a history of Jewish people working, owning companies and hiring, right? Like I worked for Jewish people fresh out of high school.
But that's the thing is like New York City is like it's an immigrant town.
Right.
And there's a lot to say about that.
Right.
You know, especially where Puerto Ricans ended up, like Lower East Side, right? East Harlem, and in the Bronx, these were predominantly Jewish communities.
Sunset Park in Brooklyn.
Probably, you know, I don't know much about
that. Actually, you know, jives. There's a neighborhood by Sunset Park that is mostly Jewish.
Yeah, of course, and of course, then there's the whole Orthodox community. But
right.
But what, you know, so then I have this like theory, right? If you ever listen to like a New Yorican talk Spanish or speak English, I mean like that. The way that the New York accent is like somewhere between like a Yiddish and a Italian. It's very Jewish Italian. Let me get a coffee, oy vey, you know? So if you ever hear a New Yorkers speak English, we learned it from our employers. We carry an almost Yiddish-like accent. Let me get a coffee. We just kind of like, you know.
Right.
A little bit more. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, that's crazy. I never even like
Damn.
that
Y'all
never
gonna get
even-
education today.
we
That's
are
what
going to
we
get
are here
education
for.
today. I am here for it. I was just saying, it is very interesting that it's not right. Like sometimes we don't know. I don't know a lot of my history, and this is why I've engaged in this in the last few years because I've gotten a thirst for it the older that I get, and I'm just unaware. I didn't know how far back the relationship between us, Black Latinos, Black Latinos are mostly the biggest minority groups or majority groups that are called minorities in America that work for Jewish people. So like
Right.
it goes
So
back. It's not a new thing.
No, it's
Your
not a new thing.
grandfather in the 50s.
Well, here let's unpack that a little bit. See, because because the worker, like the employee-employer relationship, is also an exploitative relationship. So
Absolutely.
of course, every now and then like my grandfather was very lucky that he met this man who taught him, the trade.
Right.
But those are anomalies.
Very, very
like
few.
here in the Bronx, we also had the Bronx slave market where Black women predominantly coming up from Jim Crow South would stand outside on 170, like near Walton Avenue, would stand outside. There was a Woolworths there. Woolworths was like a Rite Aid or a CVS.
Before those.
Right,
for
exactly.
those who
That's a
aren't aware.
pharmacy.
It's like a pharmacy,
with
and in that time they would do like these little dinette
I
counters.
was gonna say the ones that I remember had diners, and that's what I loved about them. Was
Yeah.
that there was a diner inside.
Exactly.
It was like, what? Like breakfast.
Right, so they would stand outside like day laborers do today in front of Home Depot, looking for domestic work. And the Grand Concourse on the Bronx was also predominantly Jewish, but affluent. And so they would stand outside of the Woolworths, and white women would come, survey them, and hire them after talking them down to pennies to come in, wash windows, do domestic work in the home. You see, immigrant town. There's always exploitation.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So now to add to that, since we're going down that road, when the influx of migration, so there are two great migrations. We know predominantly the African American Great Migration, which happens after World War I for many reasons, but like the influx, the mass exodus from the South into the North and then to the West. The second Great Migration is triggered by Operation Bootstrap from Puerto Rico and then the Greater Caribbean into New York and these places. All of this is triggered because of, post-war, 1945, World War II.
Oh, I thought it was related to the Spanish-American War.
No, that's 1898. Like
Right.
we don't start to migrate in mass until
The 50s.
Until the 50s. Why? Not like late 40s, 50s. Why? Because World War II ends. United States emerges as a superpower. Obviously, they have a lot of bread because they made bank off of selling.
War.
Well, I mean, listen, Industrial Revolution happens like in the midst of all of this, like warring and shit. Like we got planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
And all of that is really thanks to the invention of the assembly line, the conveyor belt.
Right.
Right. So like now the production of bullets, guns, tanks has ceased because we're going into quote unquote peacetime. Not really though.
Right. Yeah, not really.
Now factories are not moving. So then this is when consumerism hits and they're like, well, we're going to produce tires for cars. We're going to produce cars. We're going to produce appliances. So we start to migrate here because of factory jobs. We're locked out of the union jobs. The Irish got like the police and the fire departments.
Right.
Italians got sanitation. Like, every migrant class that had come before us, especially the European migrant class, locked down through really a lot of union fighting in the 30s and 40s, really locked down the kind of like jobs that they could have.
Right.
And they were protecting that
Very
shit as a
protective.
territory. And they were racist. And they saw, much like today, how people treat and see migrants. They saw Jim Crow migrants and Operation Bootstrap migrants coming to take their jobs. So there was no real way of like sort of getting something secure. The only kind of jobs we could get when we got here were factory jobs.
Right.
We all worked factory jobs.
And that was
And
all.
those were, of course, super it's like nothing but exploitative.
Sweatshop.
Absolutely.
Sweatshop.
Absolutely. So like especially in the garment district and the garment district.
My mother. That's how my grandmother brought my mother over and seamstress
Right.
to work in one of those sweat factory shops that, like, factories that got Lord knows how many
all
people.
in the mid-20s on the west side of Manhattan, because all of that used to feed Macy's.
Right.
Nobody shops at department stores anymore. It's just sort of like a carcass sitting on 34th Street now. But when all those jobs leave New York, because between 1960, I'm gonna fumble this. I'm not gonna remember, but basically between the 1960s and 1990s, like more than half of these jobs are gone. Like deindustrialization happens, and so like literally like 70% or something like that of the jobs that people migrated here for are gone.
That's crazy.
Right. Exactly.
Which explains probably why in the 90s so much turbulence in our communities.
I mean, it goes back. It starts in the 70s. Right? So you start to lose all of the work in the 70s, and then neoliberalism happens, which is like the government, the state starts to disinvest in taking care of the public, and they start flipping into the private sector. they start removing services. So then this is when you hear these things like planned shrinkage and benign neglect, which means like people arguing like no sanitation, picking up garbage. We're kind of in this moment again where like the state is not really taking care of the city, but they're high key investing in the public and the private sector and like pumping investment into like getting private money to go. That's like, so this starts in the 70s. It starts in the 70s. At the same time you have that happening, you have Vietnam War, counterintelligence program. So like they're completely destroying movements, any political movements at the time. You know, Malcolm is murdered, Martin is murdered, you know, like all of that.
Take down the Panthers.
Right, exactly. You know, you have veterans, like the Vietnam War is raging, it's starting to end, and they're all coming back super addicted to opioids. So now we have opioid addiction in the community. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I'm bouncing all over.
Especially that last. No, but like you just said at the very end of that, like everything you're saying is super interesting. Honestly, we don't ever know where the show goes. If this is where it's going, it's fine. But what you just said about the part where, because if I'm not mistaken, they really went heavy in the hood to get minorities to join the army. And then sent 100%. People all over to Vietnam. They use drugs heavy, if I'm not mistaken, to get people to be motivated there. Then everyone comes back addicts, and then people judge the hood for having addiction, even though the U.S. government probably introduced a lot of these people to drugs.
100%.
It's not a problem until this modern day and age, when now white people get addicted to opioids. Now it's a tragedy and it's a problem.
Well, I have opinions about that. But first, let me say something about what Holden said. Okay? So, two things. First, Operation Bootstrap, like the other side. So Operation Bootstrap was, it's the name of the state plan in Puerto Rico to basically change the system from like agriculture to try to like more industrialize Puerto Rico. So they really just like tried to revamp the system in Puerto Rico, which was like primarily an agricultural society. And it just triggered a lot of like, unemployment, like, you know, people started to leave in mass. The other thing that happened to get people to leave was the Korean War. The Korean War happens like literally right after World War II. Right. And so what they did for the Korean War is around that time that they said, Puerto Ricans now have American citizenship.
Were they a Commonwealth yet, or was it just...
Well, no, this gets established with Luis Muñoz Marin. But what they're doing, we're a colony. We're a colony from 1898. They start to try to figure out ways to make this profitable for them. So they, at the time of the start of the Korean War, is when they decide, okay, y'all are American citizens now. You have the rights to, you know, freely migrate to, you know, Puerto Rico is the size of Rhode Island, so they didn't realize that, you know, we're much bigger than just one human. You know what I'm saying? But but it's all an evil fucking plan, because what they did was, American citizen now, you're going to the war. Right. So the first line of defense in the Korean War, the first pawns sent at the Korean army at the opposition were non-English speaking Puerto Rican jibaros del campo.
Damn, jibaros
They sent them to slaughter in Korea.
Okay, but jibaros del campo is
country, right?
Country folk.
They sent Puerto Ricans to slaughter.
So this is just like...
And they sent the women to work in the factories in New York.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Now, we fast forward a little bit more. And now, back to the Vietnam War. When I used to do artist workshops at senior centers, and this was like around the time when de Blasio was still mayor and everybody was talking about stop and frisk. So we're having a conversation about stop and frisk, because I'm always sort of like trying to bring political conversations into everything, you know? And so I'm talking to these old folks about stop and frisk while we're making art. And this man, Mr. Miller, was like, oh, stop and frisk is old news. It's like, when the Vietnam War was going on, I was already a veteran of the Korean War. I was a little bit older than the other men. So I wasn't at risk of being drafted. But I can tell you that the streets of Harlem were desolate. There were no young men. Why? Because cops were snatching up young black men out in the street, arresting them on trumped up charges, and when they went before the judge, the recruiter was sitting right there. You either get locked up or you go to Vietnam.
Yeah, they do that in the hood always.
Wow.
Always.
I don't know that I've ever heard that.
Yeah,
this is like an oral telling by somebody who lived it. Mr. Miller, shout out to you. I use this story all the time. Thank you, sir.
And you know what? It still happens to this day, because I can tell you, when I was young, fresh in my college years, right? I remember dating this young lady, who I won't name because I don't want to.
Shout out to you, young lady.
Unnamed young lady.
She had an uncle that was in the military, and I was homeless, and just, you know, she was my girl, and I was getting arrested for stupid things in the city because I'm homeless. So I gotta hop the train to get on the train to go places, 100%. Right? And so I'm getting silly charges. Never getting arrested for anything that was worthwhile arresting me for. It was always the stupid things. And so her uncle, which I believe to be brainwashed by like the military and the American military complex, his response and answer to that was trying to get me to sign up for the military. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had like a desk appear, I had warrants because I didn't appear in court.
You didn't do the DATs?
Yeah, DAT. So I did get drafted. I didn't get signed up for the military because he took me there on some like, oh, I can't have you staying in my home, you know, fucking my, you know, niece and you know, whatever was his reasoning. Also brainwashed military, because you know it happens to many of them. And he was trying to get me to join into the military, which is the same, less of a right where the military at that point, we're talking about in the early 2000s, the military at that point, you already weaponized our own people against us. That's what that proves to me.
In 2000, you had Colin Powell already up there. Who people love to be like, he's from the Bronx.
Right.
I'm like, Colin Powell from the block? Fucking J-Lo out there?
No, not at all.
Fuck Colin Powell.
Fuck Colin Powell. Facts.
Right. Well, you know, like to your point, and Holden, I know you wanted to say something.
Nah, I don't even know. I'm just following this. Like a lot of this is American too, so it's like, oh, I don't know anything here. Like I'm Canadian. It's not like we're talking about.
It's the butthole of the world.
But it's also like I know Colin Powell kind of. He was the black politician guy they said was well spoken. It's the only thing I ever heard about him.
He was a military.
Oh, he's so well spoken.
That's all I know about him.
Oh my gosh.
Don't even know if he's a Republican or a Democrat.
It doesn't actually fucking matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter once you're like that involved because it's literally two sides of the same coin.
But to your point, Dutch, today, rather like it was the same when we were younger. Like you're not doing shit in high school, you cut in class, your mom's like, you better join the army or something like that.
Right.
Today, though, it's join the NYPD.
Right, also. Because the NYPD is
The NYPD has become the new military recruiter. Yeah. They are massively recruiting black and brown, poor and working class kids.
Yeah.
They set up tables everywhere. And actually, I was talking with a friend yesterday who teaches at BMCC, which is the Borough of Manhattan Community College. She said cops from Texas were tabling. They come from out of state to table at community colleges.
In New York, to get them to move to their state, to become cops there, that is crazy.
Border Patrol.
Wow.
I've actively torn down FBI recruitment flyers at the university where I teach.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy.
They're recruiting us. Why? Because we're indoctrinated by fucking Law and Order or SBU.
Exactly.
Also,
Mom's watching that shit every fucking day. Every young working class kid, what do they study? Criminal justice.
But also, doesn't that like counter because one of the biggest conversation points I hear about the defund the police stuff is the cops never live in the neighborhood they patrol. So if they start recruiting from the neighborhoods, indoctrinating, then it kind of kills that argument. They become the people from the neighborhood. And
yeah, that was always a liberal fucking argument that if the people look like you, right? This is the problem with the trope of the white cop. Now, is there a power dynamic that exists in the United States between NYPD, KKK, policing in a neighborhood?
Absolutely.
100%. But it's a limited, reductive argument of a greater argument, which is the anti-colonial argument. That if you look outside of the United States, in any place, whether it's Nigeria, Bolivia, Colombia, wherever you look, in the colonies like Martinique, wherever you look, yes, the white colonizer, but they always hire the native. It's phenomenal. They always hire the native to do the policing. Like the cops that beat your ass in Colombia are Colombian cops.
Right.
You go to the Dominican Republic, it's not white cops, it's Dominican cops. So there was this illusion that if we had black and Puerto Rican cops from the neighborhoods, that it would be like a fucking kumbaya. It's like, no. They become the oppressive force. And they have an inside knowledge. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If anything, they're more effective at suppressing or whatever they're trying to do because they just know the local customs and norms.
Yeah. Like I go to the gym to work out and like people smile at me and I'm like, you look like a cop. Like I don't know who's not an off-duty cop around me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like it doesn't work. That liberal argument was never going to work because they are an army for the state. They are literally here to extract fines or lock you up. They are not here for anything else.
These are facts.
It's wild because like we saw like they have these the longer cars that like you can put more people in. Like when we saw that, we were like, oh, that was like some SWAT stuff going down.
He's talking about paddy vans.
Yeah.
So because he's like they were wondering like what's the difference between
it's
the
a cop school bus
car and the cop van, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, there's no difference. It pulls you over the same way.
Yeah.
They just can arrest more of us.
Right. So what they would do is
I've never
like,
seen that before. Like
because you guys in Montreal, you don't have this is Wall Street is here. The New York Stock Exchange is here. So we have like the NYPD is not just like a city police. They are an imperial army.
Right.
They have more money than all of the police departments put together.
I was explaining to
them. They have millions of dollars, and they have like the New York Police Foundation. Like NYPD goes to Israel. They travel. They have international sites.
The NYPD is bigger than certain countries.
Right.
It's not a military force.
Absolutely.
That's how big the
You're
NYPD
saying the
is.
NYPD has like the equivalent of a military base in other countries.
Yes.
And
I can send you the information if you want to see.
I would love to, because like what? Why?
Yeah, when Israel was trying to teach their please stop me at any point that I'm sound wrong. If I'm not mistaken, it's something about like when they were trying to militarize their border and the oppression of Palestine, they're literally hiring NYPD to come train.
It's actually the other way around.
Okay, copy.
NYPD goes to Israel to learn how to do shit.
Word.
Israel is like the greatest expediter of surveillance and technology on how to fuck people comes from Israel. Like right now, the IDF goes to Puerto Rico right now. They're going to Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico is in this situation where gringo.
I was just thinking in light of everything that's happening with Israel and Hamas and all the arguments and shit, I don't think people ever bring up the fact that Israel exports suppressing minorities to other nations and shit as an idea. I was like that because y'all got to keep in mind we recorded this 2023 actually, so this is a couple of years before anything popped off. So like it's just really interesting to hear her speak this at this time with what we know now. Anyway, yeah.
Gringos are moving there in mass and taking all the land,
buying a property.
Right. And now, and then, you know, like the statehood thing is up for debate. See, like Puerto Rico, because it's a colony, every 10 years they have a plebiscite vote, which means the people of Puerto Rico get to vote
whether they want to stay a Commonwealth, become independent.
So the Commonwealth word, let's just throw that shit the fuck away.
Out.
Why? Because it distracts from what it actually is. It's a colony. It's a fucking colony. It's this gray area land that the United States has conquered and says they own.
And that's it.
And it's not a state. It's not part of the United States.
No.
It's not its own independent. They're not independent. They're not free to be their own thing.
No.
They are property of the United States.
Yes.
So we call it Commonwealth, but it's a colony.
And they don't allow them to grow in a. That's why I've learned from family that I have out there that cultivates the land, grows oranges, plantains, and things like that. In order to sell things on Puerto Rico, you have to ship it to America.
But the thing about the vote that's interesting, just to go back to the IDF thing, is Puerto Ricans have historically voted to just remain a colony, not because they like it, but because there's all this anti-communist fear about becoming Cuba, right? Being like Cuba, all poor and fucked up like Cuba, you know, so it's like propaganda. So people are afraid to push. Also, there's like a lot of counterinsurgency and violence. Like so many political leaders in the independence movement have been assassinated. Yeah. So Puerto Ricans stay away from the independence. They don't want statehood either. At least that has been historically the thing. So they stay in the middle. However, in the last 15 years, there's been a real resurgence around statehood at the same time that you have this land grab. So my theory is that with all of the gringos, and I mean like white Americans moving into Puerto Rico, and what they're doing is they're creating a political bloc. Once they become citizens in Puerto Rico, homeowners, if they are able to vote in the plebiscite to flip Puerto Rico into a state. Because the United States has not wanted them to be a state, because they don't want the problem of all these poor Puerto Ricans.
Right.
Exactly.
So in between this interview and today, Bad Bunny has dropped a couple albums since 2023 to now. One of the albums that he dropped is Un Verano Sin Ti, which is Summer Without You, and Debí Tirar Más Fotos is what he just finished releasing, which is I Should Have Taken More Photos. And in that album, both albums, he's speaking heavily about the gentrification of the island, and actually he backed up PNP, which is the independent party. And in the last vote, they got 11% of the vote. The statehood vote got 53% of the vote. But it doesn't even matter. What is also not being included here is it doesn't matter who wins the vote, because the United States still has to agree to everything. So it's like Puerto Ricans are voting for what they would like, but America is still pretty much like, yeah, we really don't give a fuck. You vote all you want on what you want. We're not going to do anything. You're going to stay exactly what the fuck we say you are, which is a colony, like Shellyne was saying. So crazy. That's just an update. Since this interview, a vote happened, and the vote was 11% to become independent of the United States of America. 53% or 46% voted to become state, and then the rest of the votes went to staying a colony. Update.
Exactly. So, but if they're able to cultivate, which they're doing through Law 22, cultivate. So basically, it's like tax-free fucking everything.
That's the thing that Jake Paul used to buy the house, right?
Yeah. And everybody, I know.
Like there's like, so I recommend everybody go to the Instagram Gringo Go Home, Gringo_Go_Home, and they show a lot of a lot of information about this. But essentially, what happens is through this law and through this sort of like dog whistle to all of these crackers, you know what I'm saying, like going up snatching up all the land, they form this political base. If they're able to vote and flip Puerto Rico once it becomes legitimate to the United States,
there's more white people.
Exactly. Once the settlers have settled, then we recognize this as a state. The minute Puerto Rico becomes a state, Puerto Rican natives become Palestinians, and white Americans become Zionists.
Mm.
And they will behave like this. Like, this is America. Puerto Rico is a state now. This is America.
Yeah,
Puerto Ricans will be like,
speak English. Mm.
Puerto Ricans will be like, this is Puerto Rico, blah, blah, blah. Just like Palestinians. Like, Palestinians, this is our land.
Yeah.
Nope, this is Israel. Da, 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 da. And they'll conflict, like how how Zionists conflict Judaism with Zionist fucking fascism.
Actually,
Right.
You see what I'm saying? They would
I have actual numbers now.
I bet.
The statehood was a 58% vote. And this is also right. I was just in Puerto Rico, and I could tell you there's whole cities being taken over by white people. Rincon is one of them. I posted about it in my stories. Sunburn as far as the eye could see. White people everywhere. White people out in the middle of the town, getting drunk, super drunk. White kids just fucking walking around town square like it's their town. I flew into Aguadilla Airport this time, which is not the popular airport. It's the smaller airport, but it's on the closer to the west side of the island. And because that airport is closer to Rincon, which is the main city that the white people have taken over and gentrified. Mind you, this is not the city or town that the Paul brothers live in. The city and town that the Paul brothers live in would be equivalent to Beverly Hills or the Upper East Side, which is to say the most affluent neighborhoods. This neighborhood was already an affluent neighborhood before the Paul brothers moved there. There were already Puerto Rican millionaires and billionaires that had property in that city where the Paul brothers moved to. So the Paul brothers moving there, it's literally like saying, oh, you gentrified Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills was always gentrified. Beverly Hills was always well off. It was always full of the well off and well to do. So the Paul brothers didn't gentrify anything by moving there. But Rincon was a city that belonged to Puerto Ricans, working class Puerto Ricans. So for it to become a mostly white people, and then it's white people in the town square selling their trinkets to other Puerto Ricans and other white people. You know, like that. It's just like, what, bro? Did you just move here, buy up property, start making your fucking Etsy, and set up shop? Like, I'm gonna buy your bullshit, bro. Like, you just slapped the Puerto Rican flag on shit.
Like as you're saying it, I could picture a whole marketing strategy of whiteness to play to that. That would like sell really well back home. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I would do it. I'm saying I see it makes sense to me. I mean, it's not right, but it works.
So that's just to say that Venus is not incorrect. There are a shit ton of American whites moving out there, and they probably are. That's why the percentage is 58% for statehood, 29% for independence, and 12% for sovereignty and free association, which is essentially keeping the status quo.
That's wild. That's so weird. Because, like, these American citizens who moved there remain American citizens because, if I'm not mistaken, no matter where you go in the world, you still have to pay American taxes.
Yeah. I just wanted to give numbers so people could understand. Like, it's already in play. It's already, like, and this is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, let me look that up, but, vote has won. This is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, that the statehood vote has won. No, in 2020 referendum, the 52% of the voters favored statehood. In 2017, a majority also supported statehood, although that referendum had lower voter turnout. Therefore, the 2024 referendum marks the third instance in where statehood has won the majority vote. But that's my point. Third time. I'm way older than three 3 voting cycles. You know what I mean? So I remember in the 80s that not being the popular vote. The popular vote used to be to just keep the status quo and to stay being a colony. You know what I mean? It's lately that but also back then the independence vote was very minimal. Like it was, we're talking about fucking back then we're talking about like a very minutial vote. I'm trying to look for the same time.
Right.
1967. In 1967, a majority of people wanted to remain Commonwealth. 60% wanted to remain Commonwealth. 39% favored statehood. 0.6 favored independence. So you see what I'm trying to say? Like, I know for a fact what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like most people wanted to stay a Commonwealth. In 1993, 48% voted to stay at Commonwealth. 46% favored statehood. 4% favored independence. You fast forward to 2024, and 11% of the people want independence. There's also talk about, there's been an act for Puerto Rico's independence presented to Donald Trump that would, in the long run, save American citizens billions of dollars, according to the referendum, but it would also require the United States of America assisting Puerto Rico for the next 20 years. But then essentially it would also mean that by the beginning of 2027, it would end, what do they call that? It would end Puerto Rican citizens being born as American citizens. So Puerto Ricans born in 2027 on would no longer be American citizens.
Right.
But yeah, I just want to highlight this to say the vote used to be strongest for remaining a Commonwealth, and independence had a very small percentage, 0.4% in the 60s, you know, where now you have 11%, almost 12, because it's 11.82%, to almost 12%. And that's the party that Bad Bunny has been not only favoring, but also putting money behind. Like he's been put, like it's essentially like, I don't know, for those who might remember it, but there was a comedian who when Donald Trump got voted in the first time, did a whole bit where she like had chopped off Donald Trump's head. Kathy Griffin, and people like reacted badly to that. Bad Bunny did a similar thing with the statehood vote representatives, and was like not chopped off heads, but like very unfavorable ads being printed on big billboards all over Puerto Rico via Bad Bunny. So, you know, but again, right now, the governor of Puerto Rico is a Cuban-born woman, or Jennifer is somebody who's running for it, and Jennifer with 2 F's, which is very weird. And she's like from Cuban-born parents, and she's a Republican Donald Trump fanatic. And there's a lot of like, you know, conservative Puerto Ricans. That's why a lot of Latinos voted for Trump. And there are a lot of Latinos that are Puerto Rican that voted for Trump. They're all also, more than ever, young Black Puerto Ricans, young Puerto Ricans of color, that are of the same mindset as Puerto Ricans like me, who identify themselves as Black, first and then Puerto Rican as a nationality. And we all kind of see eye to eye with the whole, like, we don't fuck with Donald Trump. We're not. So it is also highlights why it is offensive to ever blanket one group of people, you know, which has happened a lot since Kamala Harris lost the vote. A lot of Black Americans that voted for her, a lot of Black women feel betrayed by Latinos, and they were betrayed by the Latinos that voted for Trump. The only thing is that not all of us did vote for him. And it's good to always remember that and not group everybody into one. Let's hit play.
Yeah, just to add to that, when they say voted for, like, these numbers are like 50-60%. It's not, in high cases 70-80. It's never like 99% of people voted for somebody. So, like, there's large swaths of communities of people of every demographic that don't fit into your stereotype. And that's why it's useful to remember that shit. Anyway, let's get back to it, like you said.
The same thing. This is why we should be very afraid of the IDF being in Puerto Rico. We should be very afraid of IDF being in Atlanta and Cop City with this Cop City fucking problem. And we should definitely be afraid of the fact that the IDF and the NYPD are like fucking butt buddies.
It's like serious.
It's crazy because I have an uncle that in the 90s, Puerto Rican uncle, Puerto Rican born, right? Jibaro del Campo, right? Like my father and like all of his brothers, there were 10 of them total, brothers and sisters. And he converted to Judaism. And I was just like, what? I didn't know you could even do that.
You
like,
can.
Yeah, right. But when I was a little kid in the 90s, right? Like, I'm like, wait, what? We're all, the whole family's all Puerto Rican,
Catholics,
Catholics, exactly, right? Which is
well,
another,
they're all fucking Abrahamic religions.
Which is another thing indoctrinated to us and pushed on us. It's not like it's definitely not what his ancestors were worshiping in Puerto Rico before conquistadors came. They were not worshiping, they were not going, El Padre, el Hijo, el Espíritu Santo. No, they were praying to their gods of whatever, because I'm sure that in Puerto Rico they might have had different gods or,
of course, yeah.
Right, you know, but point being, you know, the whole family's Christ believers. It would seem so strange to me that, like, with you saying them being there, it's like, oh, you know what, that could kind of, like, it could have been like a decades plan that's been unraveling for quite some time now. You know what I mean? Of like infiltrating, bringing.
No, because there've been Jews in Puerto Rico for a long time, and it's really important that we don't conflate, because that's their shit to do.
Right.
That's what they try to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Zionists in Israel are actually not religious. They just use the arguments, but they actually go against the Torah. You see, it has nothing to do with religion. It's just that's just a thin veil that they try to hide behind.
Word.
There are many anti-Zionist Jews who like completely hate Israel.
Right.
You know, many.
Like I know a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of Jews who support it.
They're like, this is not in my name, not in my God's name.
Right.
You know, like you actually everything you do is against the Torah.
Word.
It's like, it's also just like I don't know, I'm Jewish because I'm born Jewish, but I'm not Israeli because I'm not Israeli, I'm Canadian. Like, it's like, there's the national identity of Israel, then there's like the ethnicity of Jewish people.
And they actually destroyed the, like, Palestine. So I'm actually friends with, like, this woman, Ariella. Shout out to Ariella Aisha Azulay.
Shout out to you, Ariella.
You know what I'm saying? Who's a Palestinian Jew.
Right.
Whose language, Ladino, very similar to Spanish, actually, Ladino, was erased. Why? Because when the state of Israel established themselves illegally on Palestinian land, they tried to they manufactured a national identity. And that national identity was Ashkenazi, and they wanted Hebrew to be the language. So they forced Hebrew on all Jews. And then there's a pecking order, there's a hierarchy, right? So Sephardic and Mizrahis were like the low, the Ashkenazi was the high. And so the Sephardics and the Mizrahis started to lose their language, lose their tongue in order to merge into this newly created Israeli identity. You see what I'm saying?
Super interesting.
I'll send you the article.
Just to be clear, Ashkenazis are like the white European Jews, and Sephardics are the ones that you would call Moroccan Jews typically.
Exactly. They're like more Arab. You see? They're Arab Jews who historically lived in Palestine in peace with Muslims. Same neighborhoods. It wasn't until fucking England in 1948 decided to parachute in all these motherfuckers. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do with religion. We have to look past the illusions that they create and see what things really are for what they are, you know?
Like, it's geopolitical. Like, nobody wanted the Jews during the Holocaust, and they were like, let's just give them their own little plot of land, and then they pick the spot on the map.
They could have easily have been Puerto Rico.
It really could have been. And then they just, because like even Canada, like people might think Canadians are great. Canada refused the Jews when Germany was like trying to export them. Like, we were like, nah, we good.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of Jews in Montreal and Quebec. So it's just like, what? How'd you
There's a
say
lot
no?
of
They still-
Caribbeans in Canada.
Yes,
Yo,
absolutely.
like Montreal's got a lot.
Like I was
Yeah,
like, it's
no,
cold up
listen,
here. What are y'all doing up here?
Canada definitely is not no like there's this like, oh, you know, the nice Canadians, you know, and it's just like, nah.
Talk to the First Nations and you'll find out the truth.
The people, the indigenous peoples of the land there, I'm pretty sure have a different story to.
I don't know about other Canadian cities, but like nobody's nice in Montreal. You don't say hi
No,
to
actually,
people.
I don't like Montreal very much.
like,
But
we're-
mostly
we're
because I
cold.
don't speak French, and I feel like it's such a problem
It is.
when you're in Montreal, if you don't speak French, people really don't want to fucking talk to you in English.
Yeah, no.
So far, Toronto has been like the place.
I
Toronto's
enjoyed
okay, but
Montreal
it's
more
just
than
less
Toronto.
good of a city. Here's the problem: Montreal's got all the problems that you're describing, but it's otherwise the littest place in Canada. And then Toronto is just easier to be around. And
It's just
Vancouver's
easier,
to be around,
exactly.
But they're less lit.
But they're less.
I
lit.
enjoyed Montreal.
Like I liked I liked being in Montreal. I liked the city of it.
I'm a
I
party-
just couldn't really engage in it
Like
because
if you
of
were
the
to
language.
like go through
I'm
with
party
like
guy.
a local,
So party cities.
yeah, Montreal's party city for real.
Let's get back to
We're supposed to be talking about my life or
your
something.
parents.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah, we started with your
Because
parents.
you had gotten to your grandparents.
my grandmother. So my parents. So my grandmother, going back to grandma and grandpa. I'll show you a really cute picture of them too. So they end up in Hall's Place, which is like Intervale Avenue.
My that's where my mother and father met.
On Intervale, 70s baby. Intervale 70s was Savage Skull territory.
I was gonna say I was just shooting a video. I was telling them I was shooting a video Saturday that passed with Dama over between Intervale and Freeman, and I was explaining to Dama, who's from Brooklyn, that I was like, back in the '90s, this was if you got off the train here, you were telling people you were here to fight because nobody lived over there. So the people that lived over there knew everybody that lived over there. So by the time I'm growing up in the '90s, like pretty crazy New York City, that's how it was over there, where it was like, yo.
Well, by the 90s, the skulls were already
No, God, they were gone, but it was still,
But it was
New York,
popping.
popping, New York.
like in the 90s. You know, I was Zulu Nation. I was down with Zulu Nation in the 90s.
Zulu, Latin Kings, and
Nietas.
Nietas. That was what we had for gangs. before
Exactly,
Bloods
and
Crips
DPP, the
and
Dominican
GD
Power.
came. Yes, right.
Yeah.
But my point being, is just that area, it was
rough.
It was rough, and also it was the people that lived there were a limited group of people. Like it was very
Insular.
Yes. It's not like it was West Street, like Tremont Stop on the 2, or 180th Street, or like 149th and 3rd. No, even
it's, like,
back
very
then,
insular.
it was very insulated. And if you look at it on the map and you know the Bronx, you know that that's one of those areas that it's like, okay, once you get in between that and the next train, ooh, you get lost, baby. There's a lot of lost
Then
land
it's
there.
Katona Park, and then
Just
forget
buses, if that,
Just buses.
If that.
The 17.
It's kind of got that same energy and vibe of the end of Queens. Once you get past Lefferts, that you're just like, oh, there's no trains out here. This is all buses. This is all desolate land, a little bit of home owning, a lot of bit of poverty, and figure it out.
Yeah.
So
in the
interesting thing right there.
70s, that's Skull's territory. I'm gonna bleed from my family into like stuff about the emergence of hip hop.
Right. No,
Okay. Right. So it's Intervale Avenue, and that's Skull territory. Like my mom's and my aunties and uncle grew up with a lot of Skulls, including Lorraine Padilla. Shout out Lorraine Padilla, La Madrina, first lady of Savage Skulls. But so Intervale is like this, and then behind it is Hall's Place, and Hall's Place goes up and it wraps around a park called Horseshoe Park. Horseshoe Park is kind of a historic site for hip hop because it's the park where the gang fight between, I believe, the Black Spades and the Seven Immortals happens, where Black Benji from the Ghetto Brothers, who was the peace ambassador, showed up to try to break up the fight and gets killed in the crossfire.
I remember. Well, I wasn't there, but I've.
Right. So like you have like here
I
on this
believe they
little
documented
wall
that in Rebel Kings, no?
in Rebel Kings, but Rebel Kings got it from most of the footage from Rebel Kings comes from Flying Cut Sleeves, which is a much older documentary, and it's on YouTube for free. Also, 80 Blocks from Tiffany's.
80 Blocks from Tiffany's.
Yeah, and there you'll see a young Lorraine Padilla talking and all that. So like I kept this because I texted my mom about it. I was like learning about this, and I'm like, Mom, do you know this guy? And here's like who should I give this to?
Over here.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a text between me and my mom, and I sent her the newspaper article of the killing of Black Benji. I'm like, Mom, did you know this guy? And she's like, I didn't really know him that well, but I remember that he was a sweet guy. So like people knew each other. They were all teenagers at the time. They knew each other. So Black Benji gets killed, and just to like give a small synopsis of how this happens. The Ghetto Brothers was one of the many gangs at that time, but they had sort of like made a left in terms of like what their gang was going to be. They wanted to be more political, like the Young Lords and the Black Panthers. So gangs back then usually had like the prez, the vice prez, and then the war council, like with the warlord, right?
Warlord, right.
But they implemented a new position, which was the peace ambassador, of which that's what Black Benji was. So they were like trying to get people to make peace and like chill the fuck out. Something that like Zulu Nation then picks up on later on with Bambaataa, right? We won't get into Bambaataa, whatever. Anyway, but so when he gets killed, like it's a big deal because gangs really respected what they were trying to do. So people were upset and picking sides. And so like a lot of gangs were like, fuck that, we're gonna go to war, we're gonna fuck up the 7 Immortals, and siding with the Black Panther, with the Ghetto Brothers, and then other people were defending. And it was starting to become like fucking one of these world WWF big brawls where it was just like multiple gangs on each side. But as Yellow Benji and Karate Charlie from Ghetto Brothers explain, Black Benji's mom was like, my son died for peace. And so they call for a historic meeting.
Historic meeting, right.
Whole Avenue, at the Boys and Girls Club, the Peace Treaty. They get all the gangs in there. Over 100 gangs show up to the Boys and Girls Club. And they basically hash out a bunch of beefs.
Right.
And there's footage of this exchange.
I'm like, why can't something like that happen again? You know,
you know, it's like, but it took at least the politicizing of one of the gangs that was respected enough to like have the charisma to bring that kind of energy. It doesn't last long.
Right.
Because the conditions, conditions of unfreedom sometimes just make it so like we get back into the rage. But for that moment, it lasted. You see what I'm saying? And so they declared a peace. Newspapers, like all the papers, all of the news cameras were there waiting to hear if there was going to be massive war in the Bronx. Now, remember I said this was around the time that like services were withdrawn. So like police, ambulance, all that shit. Like, so the Bronx was really sort of like abandoned as a place. They were waiting for people to sort of just like off each other, burn everything down, and then build from the ground up. So it was kind of like a closed off zone, you know? Once the cameras and the journalists saw that it was a peace treaty, they packed their shit up and went home. And the gangs were like, you see, y'all just only here because y'all want to see us kill each other. But now we're telling you we're making peace, and now you feel like you don't got a story. So they dipped. But all of this to say, Black Benji sort of becomes like a martyr.
Right. No,
and a catalyst for like the
catalyst for sure.
For the emergence of hip hop, because now they're like, all right, we're gonna throw parties because this peace treaty sort of ended like the idea that you can't go on that block or you can't go on that block because they're territories. So now you can travel freely to go 3 blocks that way or 3 blocks that way. So then DJs are like, okay, we could bring our equipment out into the parks and throw big jams. Nah, if you were from, and it's kind of like that sometimes still, if you from one housing project,
that's how it's
you better not go to that housing project.
Because nowadays, right, like with the drill scene in the Bronx, which is what's been pushing the music scene in the city, right, since Pop Smoke's passing, Brooklyn's drill scene kind of has gone down, or their names or whatever. The point being that the Bronx drill scene is emerging more, and you see that it's not about blood and Crip, it's about neighborhoods.
It's about neighborhoods.
It's RPT, it's the YGs in my neighborhood on Cortland, it's the OGs over here, High Bridge, Belmont, like it's neighborhoods.
It's neighborhoods.
It's neighborhoods. And a lot of these neighborhoods bleed over with each other. My neighborhood of Cortland, over by Morris Projects, that area collaborates a lot with Harlem Cats. And you see a lot of Harlem Cats come into my neighborhood a lot. And the same thing with High Bridge teaming up with like guys that like, or
probably like Inwood uptown.
Yeah, way further up where I was born at, which was Eastchester Gardens. Guys from like Eastchester Gardens, which is over by AD Avenue, Boston Road, Gun Hill Road.
Well, that drawing that I pointed to, the one that is by Mumia Abu Jamal, he made that drawing for a, what do you call this? Like a benefit is not the right word. It was like an auction, basically to raise money for the BX-120. The BX-120 is a name that was given to the 120 kids, men and boys, who were arrested from Eastchester Gardens, the Eastchester houses. I think it was like 2018 or something like that. So like they RICO'd all these kids, 120 kids in one night. It was a joint task force between the Department of Homeland Security, because so many of them from the Caribbean.
Right.
Right.
Same thing they did
FBI, DEA, and NYPD. They RICO'd all these kids using social media. Oh, because you're like, imagine you're a 13-year-old kid. All the cool boys on the block rep this certain thing.
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
You know, you want to be down with the cool kids.
Absolutely.
So you like try to say that shit on social media and shit. Swoop, you're gone.
Crazy.
You
yeah,
know?
no, that's definitely their been MO, and that's what they've been doing. They've been, I mean, right? They went from RICOing Italian mafia to RICOing small gangs.
And now they're gonna start using this RICO shit for political organizers.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Look at Cop City. They gave those kids in Cop City's domestic terrorism charges.
What's happening in Cop City?
Okay, so glad you asked. Montreal, y'all about to learn about this bullshit that's going on over here.
Let's go.
Okay, so in Atlanta, I'm not gonna have all the math right, but I'll give you the gist of it. In Atlanta, there is a forest called the Weelaunee Forest. Essentially, they are trying to clear this forest to build a massive police training site with a full city inside of it for them to train in. This site, called Cops, which we're calling Cop City, will be a site for people to come from all over the world to train their police forces in urban combat. After the uprisings in 2020, the police are trying to learn how to deal with urban warfare.
Wow.
And so they're building this in and they're trying to clear out one of like a very important forest. And the problem is also like there's so many angles to this. Like there's so much massive gentrification in like in Atlanta. Like it's next to like a gentrifying Black and brown historic neighborhood. It's this forest that's on Muskogee land. So like, you know, there's like indigenous people's claims to that forest. But what happened was people were doing land defense. So they went into the forest and they like basically have been occupying the forest, living in the forest, inviting people to come to like party, chill in the forest. This is where that kid Tort got killed. Tortuguita, who was like basically the the Atlanta Police Department went into the forest and opened fire, and I believe it was like 57 bullets they dug out of this kid, his hands up. So they actually killed a kid in there. But basically, like activists have been holding the forest and blocking it. No? This is recent. This is happening right now.
I'm like, wait a minute, I've heard
this is happening right now. We all need to be talking about Cop City. This is not just
the kid that got chased through the forest.
Right? He wasn't chased. He was sitting in a tree. And like,
I'll just say I've heard nobody talk about Cop City since this. I don't even think we've talked about Cop City since this.
That's because it's not being like publicized in the news, you know?
It's wild, eh?
I was realizing yesterday when I made the post about Blake Lively that part of her team's, because she got a former federal, hold on, Blake Lively. What is that called? Press. What are those people called? The people that take care of your press, the publicists, federal publicists. Yeah, she hired a former CIA agent as her publicist. A dude that is like known for just being like a beast in Hollywood with getting information that he's not supposed to have, getting the most like, you know, worst information on people. And she hired him. And I said that to say that, you know, it's interesting to me because that's why I think I don't see many people talking about Blake Lively in my timeline. Like, not only do people not care so much because people cared about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp because they were huge Johnny Depp fans. Nobody cares about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni because nobody knows who Justin Baldoni is to give a fuck about him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Justin Baldoni is like the Leonardo DiCaprio, like, oh my God, that's my dude that played what's his name in my favorite movie ever. Justin Baldoni doesn't have that. So Blake Lively gets to be this like spoiled brat white woman from Rosewood, the movie, which is essentially to say Rosewood, the movie, was centered in like racist America time in Florida. At any point, Lindell can jump in here, right? Rosewood is from Florida, and like the story is basically like a white woman cried that she got raped by a black man, and 2 towns worth of black people were slaughtered and destroyed because a white woman lied about fucking cheating on her husband with another white man who beat her and left her in her home for her husband to come find, beaten, and raped. And she lied and said that a black man did that to her. And then 2 towns worth of black people ended up fucking slaughtered and destroyed behind this white woman's lie. And that is what Blake Lively reminds me of. That is what Taylor Swift reminds me of. That is what any lying white woman reminds me of. It reminds me of also that you could update that story to be the story of Emmett Till. You know what I mean? Where like Emmett Till, the story is supposedly that he whistled at a white woman and he was just fucking dragged from a car and then fucking hung and then fucking sank in a river. And his mother, she did not have a closed casket funeral. She had an open casket so that the world could see what those white men did to her son and her child. And then they put the picture of what her son looked like in that casket on the front page of a newspaper. And like that spread around the world about like what white people in the South were doing to black people, you know? And that is what Blake Lively is. She's just a new updated version of that, of a white woman just getting away with just the worst behavior. And she hired this CIA guy to be her publicist, and he's just like scrubbing the internet, fucking trying to get the worst on this dude. But fortunately for this dude, he's got a billionaire on his side. But like, you know, unfortunately is like, yo, she's got a CIA agent, an ex-CIA agent on her side as a publicist. So like people are just not talking about it because like it's just not premier news like that. And Cop City smells like that, where it's just like the government has the best publicist available, which is blackmail on all news organizations that speak out against the government in America.
Yeah. And it's probably scary that there's a cop city in light of everything happening in America today. Maybe we should have talked about it more.
Maybe we will.
Yeah. I'm going to look into it. All right. Let's
put a
keep
pin
watching.
in it. Let's go.
People need to realize is when you see these things happening in the States, like if you're in Montreal right now, you don't have the legal right to protest without consent. Every protest has to be authorized by the police with a clear start and end point. This is a real fact, and people may not believe that, but it's a real fact. So imagine they invite the SPVM, our police force, down to this training facility to deal with urban combat. We already know they're liberal with smoke bombs. We already know they're willing to go to town on us. Imagine they get like really good at it.
Exactly.
You know, like, and then, oh, you guys want to do your, because we have an annual anti-police protest where every year it's a shit show by the end of it. Every year, even if we behave, because they put their operatives in, they put their disruptors in, which we can't prove, but we believe it's the cops disrupting our own stuff. So like whatever. So imagine how good they're gonna get if Atlanta's Cop City like comes to life, and then wherever you're at, wherever you're at in the world, it's gonna be the same thing.
Yes.
Especially major cities, major cities
yeah.
with like people in mass who can come together. Especially if this 15-minute city thing comes to life and robot cop dogs. I heard there's cop dogs now.
There's robot dogs.
Yeah, they've been using them in New York.
Yeah.
It's crazy because the thing that immediately comes to my mind, I like to pride myself on the fact that like I don't get caught up in, like, I'm a problem solver. Like that's my natural instinct. And as a problem solving mind, I like focusing on the things to fix things. And immediately when you said all that, I'm just like, it would be easier, it'd be cheaper to fix the issues across our own country that would help people in other countries fix their issues, racial issues. There's so many issues that are just like, instead of creating another way to oppress, you could just address the many things.
That would cost money.
It would, because if you look at the wealth gap, if I'm not mistaken, the 1% had about 50% of the wealth in the rest of the world, 50% in America pre-COVID, and that shifted to 66-33 by the end of COVID.
I don't know the numbers, but I know that
Like there's some crazy,
it's definitely
so like
really,
whatever they're doing now is
gross.
It's not, it might cost the country money, but it's not costing the people who are making those decisions money, because they be banking.
Yeah, no, we are, like, the United States is in fascism right now.
Yeah.
Like, we've been, like, creeping in that way, you know. Trump pretty much was, like, sealed the deal. But we are, like,
he sealed the deal, but
full-on
we
fascism.
were already before that.
Like, the thing is, like, fascism on another level because it's, like, locally fascist, too. You know, there's, like, state fascism, and then there's the overarching fascism. Cop City situation is distinct because they arrested kids in the forest for occupying the land as a political act to defend it from the building of this thing. So they were, there were some people who were like, sabotaging equipment, like to tear down the forest and like different kinds of actions that many different pockets of people were doing. Some people were just protesting in City Hall. Other people were like, we're going to slash the tires of the fucking crane,
Right.
But these kids were just occupying the forest. It was a party. There was like a music festival thrown. They arrested them and they gave them domestic terrorism charges. And that's the thing we have to really, 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 really be looking at. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it sets a precedent.
Yes.
If you object to something that the state is doing and you speak out against it or you do an act against it and they start declaring domestic terrorism charges, then what? You can't do anything. You can't say anything.
Yeah.
We can't allow
you're
this.
domestic terrorist, so now they can put you under there.
Right.
Put you on,
now, let's recall January 6th.
But they get off easy.
So I mean, not everybody.
Well, not everybody
How does freedom of speech then play into all of that? Because like in theory, we don't have the same freedom of speech. It's different. But yours in theory should allow you to just do this protest. And if like religions can get away with shit under freedom of speech, shouldn't you be like able to?
It's a real tricky thing that they're playing with right there.
Yeah.
What counts as freedom of speech? Like I mean, look, they just overturned Roe v. Wade. Right? So, like, there is a dialing back on all of the things that is happening. There's a dialing it back. you know?
Yeah.
And then if you protest against it, you're a domestic terrorist. It becomes a seriously big issue.
This is where we're going with it. And so like really what needs to happen here is people need to be really rushing forward and pushing hard against everything right now, because staying stagnant, like, oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah,
That's
no,
literally
not gonna
that's
help.
literally just allowing them to push you back.
Yes.
Like there needs to be that tension needs to be there.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
really, like back to my point, like New York isn't like this is the police state here. Like you can't like you look to your left, you look to your right. There's cops everywhere.
Everywhere.
They don't seem to care as much about traffic violations here. From what
Nah, no, you're
But that's the
thinking about-
biggest moneymaker in the city.
Yeah, he's thinking about it's
Montreal.
just that
Montreal
New York.
cops exist to give out tickets for traffic.
They do
There's
that here.
almost
They
but
do.
there's almost like no other purpose for them for the most part.
Yeah, it's-
Right.
You know what it is that New York is a rule breaker city. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we break
like
rules.
listen, like
Especially in outer boroughs.
I joke about him when
Like
he
the
gets in
Bronx
the
is like-
car. When he gets in the car in the back seat, he puts on a seatbelt in the back seat. And I grew up. I still to this day, I'm in the back seat. I'm not putting a seatbelt on.
I'm like,
I'm safe, man.
somebody tried to tell me to put on a seatbelt in the Uber window, but I was like, where is it?
We also jaywalk freely, right? Like
Oh,
these
yeah.
are things that in other places, much more frowned
In
upon.
California, people was like, I was like, I'm not waiting at no fucking light. Ain't no car coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
Yeah,
in
no,
other
like
places.
it's a pedestrian city.
Yeah,
We take
exactly.
this.
We're pedestrians, so there's a bunch of things that we do that, like, I'm pretty sure in other places they give out tickets and things freely for
They
it.
really giving out
That
tickets on that
doesn't
seatbelt
get
thing.
a lot of tickets in New York,
Yeah.
but it goes to show you if they're willing to give that up, that means that they're banking a lot of money off just the things that they are like guard dogging on, you know, all the other things. Let's get back to your
Yo,
upbringing.
we are over an hour in.
Nah,
and,
listen,
and I just want to point out this is incredible.
Nah,
but-
incredible.
but like,
Wild
wow.
informative.
Like,
Wildly informative. Wildly informative.
I don't even think we hit your
informative
parents.
on a multitude of things. But I want to get to I want to touch on the things that we touch on the show, but I want to get to what it is where is it that this happens to a young
Artist.
Shellyne
Alright,
V-
okay,
right?
let's try to focus on that. Let's try to focus on
let's
that.
hold on.
Okay.
Let's go with your parents. So they were both born here.
Yeah, no, my dad's from Ponce.
Okay, so your dad's from Ponce.
Yeah.
So your dad didn't come here till when?
I don't know a lot about my dad's
Okay,
history.
copy.
Like my mom is the firstborn.
Mhm.
You know, she's in 58, so like, you know, she came to age in the 60s and the 70s.
Mhm.
You know, like she was 18 when she had me in 77. So like, you know, my mom was like a disco queen. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like really,
That era.
yeah, like boogaloo disco. You know, when I was coming up, it was like in the Bronx. You know, it's like the emergence of hip hop culture.
What hospital were you born in?
I was born in a hospital actually here in Parchester, but it doesn't exist anymore.
What was the name of it? You were just
Parchester? I think it's called Parchester Hospital. or some
I was
shit.
born because I've noticed that because we interview a lot of New Yorkers, and when this is something that matters to us.
Yeah, not
Well-
me, because
well-
the hospital that like I was born in doesn't exist
I was
anymore.
gonna say to you, I feel this. I understand, but like my hospital, because my hospital's not there either.
What was
I
yours?
I was born in Our Lady of Mercy up in the north. Like it was up by like, okay. It's up by the like North Bronx, headed towards on the 2.
Why do you think that's important, Dutch?
I mean, I think that New Yorkers, like I've noticed the bonding that New Yorkers have over there.
The hospital they
their
were born in?
they're born in.
I have
'Cause
such a saltiness with the hospital I was born in.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, look, my mother was gonna name me Shanghai.
really.
I would have been Shanghai fucking Rodriguez.
Shanghai
bitch.
fucking Rodriguez would have been fired, son.
I mean, I'm already Shanghai
Nah,
Rodriguez,
I mean,
but you know
listen,
what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
so, but my mom.
I mean, I like Shellyne too.
Nah, man, Shanghai.
You're like
Shellyne.
Shanghai, Shellyne.
Like, you know, our generation grew up on kung fu movies.
Yes.
That hence Wu-Tang.
Right.
Right. You know, so like we have a relationship with that, all that karate kung fu
Right.
shit. So if I was Shanghai coming up,
Right, right. It would have been wildfire. When,
It just
when
was-
Wu-Tang was coming out, you'd have been the one.
I
Everybody
would've
would have been like, yeah, you're like Wu-Tang in the Bronx, right?
Dead ass.
You're from the Bronx
Dead
chapter
ass,
of
yep.
Wu-Tang?
Exactly. But yeah, no, like she named me after a nurse in the hospital because the nurse snuck her a pack of Cools and a Pepsi.
Word.
So I'm like, you fucking low-balled me for a fucking pack of cigarettes and a soda?
No. The nurse brought like the ill greatness that she needed. She was like, yo, it's been 9 months. I need a bogey, bro. And I need a Coke, I need a soda. And the nurse was like, yeah, here you go. I got you. And she was like, this is who you name your child after. A motherfucker that do shit like this. That's a rebel that breaks the rules, by the way. Right?
I like your spin on this, Dutch. I
Right?
appreciate
So
this.
the nurse broke the rules. So she kind of like, it's an apropos, fam. Like, she saw, your mother had the foresight to know, my daughter's going to be the rule breaker, fam. I'm naming her after the other rule breaker that I know.
All right, so now I got to tell you the other side of this shit. I got to tell you the other side of this
Uh-huh.
shit. So I was born literally the day, like 30 minutes after the death of Elvis Presley.
That's crazy. What?
Literally.
So you're like, you pop out and everyone's crying because Elvis died.
Exactly. Because it's like Elvis Presley died, and I'm like, Elvis was a hero to me.
Right.
You know? But my mom's like, you are artist because, you know what I'm saying, you were born on the day that Elvis Presley died. Maybe you got a little bit of the like art thing from that, you know?
Word. There's got to be something with the sun, moon, and stars
It's
that
like,
relates to
it's
it.
like, you know, you're a creative person, you know, like, you know, when I was coming up, I thought I was going to like, you know, it was art and music always for me.
right.
Like, you know, I went left with the art. Your life is not, it's your life, obviously, it's tu camino, you know, but it is not yours only.
Right.
Your life is the continuation of a life. of many lives. Like there's a ladder between you and your ancestors, and like your life has been a walk that has been walking back.
Right.
We're ancestors in training.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's
Right.
never, we will
Right.
never see it in our lifetime. We just need to push it forward.
Push it forward. Absolutely.
Can we talk about how you joined Zulu Nation? Like, that's wild. Like, obviously I'm aware of it. It's like, they're like, but for me, it's like, that's that internet history stuff. You were there. You were involved in it.
Well, yeah, like by the time I joined Zulu, like Zulu came around in the 70s, you know? But they had really maintained like a presence because of Bambaataa, because of
Hip-hop
because of the hip hop conservation idea that they had, you know? So Zulu was kind of like sort of like presented itself as like something similar to the Nation of Islam or
Right.
the God Nation of Gods on Earths, right?
Yes.
But with that hip hop spin to it, like hip hop culture. So it's like, you know, the fifth element of hip hop is like knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So they were like merging all these things together, but it also never let go of its like street gang mentality because it emerges from
that.
the Black Spades.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So around this time, I'm in high school, kids in my school were like Zulus and Yetas. I went with Zulu because Wu-Tang said it in the song. Peace to the fucking Zulu Nation. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I'm getting with this, yo. And I was really into the whole, like, you know, Africa thing, you know?
Right.
So, like, because, you know, back then, we thought like that. You know, it was Free South Africa. It was Malcolm X.
Right.
You know, there was, like, there was a political spin in hip-hop. Before Puffy. There's before Puffy, then there's after Puffy, you know?
AP.
It's fair.
Before, like, that real, like, unapologetic commercial rap shit
Yeah.
became okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no shade to, like, the dope MCs that came up through that,
Yeah.
but...
No, there was. I mean, I don't know if I put it only on Puff because Dre, right? Dre and Puff are like kind of like the
Yeah, it's true.
two-headed, like they
Two-headed dragon.
That like they helped sell a lot of records,
Yeah.
which is really what kind of.
But the
Vanilla
thing about
Ice,
Dre,
MC
but the thing
Hammer,
about Dre
that
and the
generation.
Chronic is that even though like it wasn't product placement the way that Puff was.
Gin and Juice. Tanqueray.
That's later.
Right.
That's later. I'm saying like when Chronic first comes out, like 91, like
93.
like I'm mixing it up in my head.
92.
Sure.
Something like that. I don't know. In the early 90s, we'll say, right? When Chronic comes around, it's like an education of like West Coast culture.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But it's not so much like I bought this, I got that. You know, it's just more like saying
no,
we're
absolutely,
here.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
You're
Like
right about
when
that.
Puff
Absolutely.
comes out,
Yes, the commercialization and the flashiness and everything hit a different level.
100%. And then to
he brought in
critique
the
that,
shiny suit.
exactly, he motherfucking did. And to critique that made you a player hater.
Right.
So there was no possibility of critiquing this fucking like commercial shit because you just got cast off as a hater, you know?
Yeah.
But that happened, like Wu-Tang happens and then they happen.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But when Wu-Tang happened, you know, that shit was still gritty and like creative
Yes,
and
absolutely.
you know what I'm saying? So
And Zulu Nation it really was, like you said, it was kind of like the Nation of Islam, where it was kind of like, it was, right, the Nation of Islam has the fruit of Islam that protects. And it's kind of like the
yes, it
security
is. It's the
force.
security force. So you see that box right there say Zulu lessons?
Yes.
I still got all of my teachings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Grab.
No, don't. It'll all come down like
No,
that.
not
grab
the
a shot of
Okay.
Oh, just the
Yeah,
the
I still
thing.
have my Zulu
Yeah,
lessons.
that's
So it's like-
crazy because, listen, so my friends, born in 80,
Mm-hmm.
a couple years later, and when I'm growing up in school, all my friends are either Latin Kings or Zulu, and they both want me to join Latin Kings or Zulu.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we grew up in a different era, acknowledging who we are. It's all my friends from little were all black and Afro-Latino,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know, I feel way about Afro-Latino. We'll talk about that privately on side ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that, so it was never, so to me, it was like, I was always looking at Latin Kings like, I don't know, I mean, Zulu Nation, right? Like, same
Yeah,
thing,
there was
right?
some anti-blackness in Latin King I couldn't get with. It's like half my family is Black American,
I
so
can't get with Latinos that are.
I'm like, nah, yo,
that are-
y'all gonna call my little sister nigga because she's more dark skinned than
and
me.
I'm
I'm
not,
gonna fuck
we're gonna
somebody up.
scrap and it's gonna be over. But nonetheless, it was almost as if though at the time when I was going through it, there was Nietas were kind of like endangering the survival of Zulu and Latin Kings. At least that's how the Zulu and Latin King were like feeling it in my area.
In your area, because it
in
was
my
so
area.
different in my area.
In different areas, I know, and that's what I've noticed, right?
Like
But
in
so-
my area, the Kings and the Nietas rolled together because it was like this thing around being from Puerto Rican jails.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So
Yeah, and
well,
Zulu was the outlier.
That's crazy, right? So where I was at near Pelham Parkway, going to Columbus, it was.
Ooh, you had all the Albanians over there.
Yeah, it was bad. I
Albanians.
had bad memories of junior high school of Albanians dumping white paint on black girls, and like they're extra level racist. That,
They
like,
extra level. Not only are they extra level racist, but they
Yes.
were their because of that Kosovo shit, man.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like a different level of violence.
Different level of violence, right, right. But that's why I've never, as a Bronx New Yorker, like I don't judge all Albanians, but at the same time I will mock and make fun of the Albanians that want to be Italian so bad that they're trying to take over all the Italian properties and all the Italian.
Shout out to 187.
All the Italian pizza restaurants that try to pretend like because they have black hair that they're also Italian, and it's like keep
Shout-
the Italian stuff out.
shout out-
Don't put our Albanian flag up. It's like we taste the difference in the pizza, fam. You're not
Shout out to
Italian,
Little Italy.
and you didn't do what the Mexicans did, which is learn how to actually make pizza the right way. So
You gotta
you
get
can
some
actually make the
Albanians at your
pizza.
front door, my guy.
Yo, my fault. I let out too much.
Shout out to the
Anyway.
spicy whites, yo.
Shout out to the spicy whites. Well, in my neighborhood, they were teaming up against the Nietas who were coming in, and they were like, when my friends, I remember getting arrested for the first time ever in high school because my Zulu and Latin King friends, I would always tell them, I'm not joining no gang, but if you got problems, let me know. I'll be there with y'all. And when it was time for the big fucking gang fight, I guess, between Zulu and Kings teamed up against Nietas, I was there with my King and Zulu friends, and the Nietas showed up with machetes, which is why when Justice for Junior ends up happening, I'm like, this is not a new story. Dominicans have been bringing machetes into like gang fight shit since the 90s.
Shit,
which I'm
Rastas
pretty
used to do that shit,
I was
man.
gonna say, since, and also Rastas, Puerto Ricans are not.
Yeah, anybody from the Caribbean is grabbing a machete, bro.
Nobody got machete, by the way. Nobody got machete.
No, there's machetes here,
There
bro.
are machetes. There are machetes. I'm saying in my gang story from then, nobody got macheted. Thankfully,
Nobody died.
There were plenty of fights. I did get arrested. That was my first, and then that set off a cataclysm event.
Yeah.
But the point that I was trying to get to is that there was always like a thing.
The Shaka Zulu team, too.
Right.
The Shaka Zulus.
There we go. Absolutely.
The Shaka Zulus, yeah.
It's the Shaka Zulu team.
So another sort of like elite. Sort of like the
Still
big
part of the
dudes.
Zulu Nation, right?
There's a big dudes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Ahmed Henderson, who was my chapter leader, Cayenne Zulu.
Shout out to my guy Wahid Ali.
And so like,
Right.
it's like
But back to the politicizing of it, like
Right.
what happens in Zulu at that time, what happens at the time that I'm in Zulu that really kind of like shifts it. Two things are happening. The fight in Vieques in Puerto Rico to remove military bases out of Vieques.
Vieques
is like, so Puerto Rico is an archipelago. It's not just the main island. There's also Culebra and there's Vieques. Vieques was a Navy base for the United States and they were dumping shit there and the cancer rate was through the roof and people were really trying to get the fucking military base out of there. That was happening at the same time Amadou Diallo happened.
Right.
Amadou Diallo was a Somalian immigrant, African immigrant, lived not too far from here in Soundview. If you like go down there, you see it's named after him. He was coming home from work and he goes into the vestibule to put his keys in the door and there's a plainclothes street team of fucking pigs.
Right.
Riding around, DK looking for
stopping and frisking. What was
they were just hunting. They were hunting.
What was the thing that we stopped years ago? Or
I don't even remember anymore the names and shit. Yeah.
It was the racial profiling.
The racial profiling.
Right,
Yeah.
racial
But like
profiling,
there was
which
these
has always been
like
happening.
plainclothes street teams of cops, which Adams is trying to bring back. Basically patrolling. They see him in the doorway. He goes to pull out his wallet to identify himself because in New York City, if you don't have ID, if you get stopped, you get taken in.
Yes.
And they bust shots. They shoot him 41 times. The coroner was taking fucking bullets out of the soles of his feet. You see what I'm saying? So this was erupted in New York. My first protest is the Amadou Diallo protest. I'm like 17, 18.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was
that
like
sort of sets
14,
it off. That
15.
the Vieques thing with Puerto Rico. Remember, my grandma had given me that book. Now I'm like reading this thing, and then I'm reading Zulu Nation lessons, which are a mixture of like lessons from the Nation of Islam, a lot of stuff about the history of Africa, a ton of Illuminati shit.
Nation of Gods and Earth.
Right. Ton of Illuminati shit.
Like,
yo.
is it like directly called Illuminati there, or is it like implied Illuminati?
No, it's straight up like Illuminati.
Yeah, that's
See, in the 90s, New York, New World Order, Illuminati,
Nope.
all of that stuff was
way
like
before it got online.
So
way
this is
before-
like
really
not
something.
new at all, 'cause,
Not
like,
new at all.
Absolutely not,
Absolutely
no.
not. Which is where like I would get like frustration throughout the years with that but it's because
Illuminati got my mind, soul, and my body. Secret society, trying to put their arm on me.
But yes, so you got politicized around then, especially all these things leading up, but that in particular, that era begins the strong catalyst.
That's the strong catalyst. I'm like, I never stopped drawing. I'm always making art.
You're making art,
But I'm like more of a graffiti kid at the time. You know what I'm saying? So I got my black book. I still have
That's crazy that you still
the
got your
old black book. Let's see if
I still have one old black book myself.
Here it is. Did I just rip this? Oh no, here it is. Look at this shit.
That is what a black book was. Let me.
I apologize now
So,
how
ladies
bad
and
it
gentlemen,
is.
this is a black book, and this is literally from New York City public school system, right? So this is the way it would go. You'd have a black book. This book was actually black cover, right? And then you start covering it with stickers, and then you tag up in it, and then the artists that you find talented as well start tagging up in it.
So that's a Venus book, not a Shellyne book.
And you get
Look,
yes.
I got biotag. There's like probably, look at, see, that was the Zulu anniversary. Go back to that page. See, so this is, look, Zulu Nation's 20th anniversary. And that's all like Tats Cruz tags with a pencil.
Tats Crew. So you knew Tats guys.
I didn't know them niggas.
Okay.
They actually hate me now. Because I called them out for taking real estate money to do them stupid ass murals they be doing.
Yeah, no, there's a problem with a lot of.
Listen, like, old niggas gotta eat, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've been a graffiti writer your whole life, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody respects your art as a legitimate craft.
Right.
I understand, you're just trying to get checks. But,
It's amazing.
we had war out here, So.
Yours is actually lit. Mine was not as good.
Yo, this
My black book that doesn't have a cover on it.
Oh, hold on. Let me stop the share. And highlight you. Give me a second. We're gonna highlight you. I don't know how to do that.
You don't know how to highlight me? The fuck,
Pin.
Colton?
There we go. You're highlighted.
My black book. There we go. There we go. My black book. That I did not use for graffiti. I used it for raps. Dutch Vega.
Just spit a rap.
Damn, bro. Look at this fucking shit, bro.
Spit a little something. Spit a little young Dutch.
Oh my God. Let's see. Man, I don't know what to let's see. Why you take so long to make love to my ears with your songs? This reads more like fucking poetry now that I look at it. Like, yo, no flow.
I mean, that's part of the charm of it all, right? It's the early work. It's the stuff that never turned into the songs that turned into the 13 projects.
Shut your trap. Dutch about to rap. I'm talking to you, Holden.
I heard you. I heard you.
That's right. Silence. Say twice. Nicest. Now just pay close. I ain't playing. Where the dough. Not freestyles. My styles ain't free. I'm too nice. Gotta cough up some money. This is 1996 Dutch, by the way. So like, you know, your crew gets me pissed. All you get is booze and hiss. Failed, you fizzle. I'm hot for shizzle. You for no. All there I go. Cause a fiasco. Cause Dutch is an asshole. Talk too much shit. Dutch ain't hearing it. Man. That's about it.
I mean, at the same time, if you were to take some of those, put them into a book, and call it the early years, slap some Liddy Bro shit on it, probably sell it for like $50 a pop or some shit. That's how the nostalgia stuff works. Or the look at my past, a little glimpse into my younger soul.
Man, I was always such an arrogant kid. I love it. But yeah, man. Shouts to the Black Book.
Yeah.
Yo, my God, my names. I used to write like these names that I'd want. Dutch De Niro. Vega the Amazing. What's the next page? Another alias. Frank Benji's. What's kid? Yeah, the point is, oh, boom. Mine did have some artwork in it. Let's see if I can show this without, boom. This is Dutch Vega, damn. Shit.
Disappeared.
I know I'm disappearing. Here we go. Dutch Vega. This was my hand style. This was me. I was living in Harlem at the time. From the Bronx, Blackout Gods. And then I shouted out all my bros on this. Carmel, O, Hot, who's still in my life. Carmel's also still in my life. Yeah, man. Original Dutch Vega artwork. Who is this? This is somebody named Scars.
Shout out Scars.
Shout out Scars.
Dutch stay up player.
Man, crazy.
You know what?
But
You
yeah,
did
that's
stay up. You did in fact stay up.
I did in fact stay up. I did in fact stay up. Yeah.
That's dope still.
Let's go back to the interview. I just wanted to share that I also had my black book. I said that I still had a black book, and I was not lying to Venus. I didn't get to show her, but I show the world in her interview.
Maybe one day she sees this, and then she sees it.
Right.
Shit is like an art piece. Like I think I've heard of black books. I've talked to graphic. You've got it's like your apartment's full of like these artifacts, of the fucking culture. Where like you fucks with this heavy like this.
What high school did you end up going to?
I went to Rose on Fordham.
What? I would have thought you would have went to like art and design. Yo,
I tried to, but my grades were so bad. I had all Fs.
Yo, I think that's a beautiful story. You want to know why? Similar to mine.
And I got my GED. I didn't even finish because I basically used to smoke blunts all day outside. We went for homeroom and lunch.
Exactly, homeroom, lunch, the whole day until I'm ready to. And I'll come in and out. And Columbus was not it's not like Clinton, which you were allowed to leave for lunch.
Yeah, nah.
Nah, Columbus wasn't that.
Somebody had to open the back door for you to get you back in.
Security at that point. Similarly, I tried to apply for art and design. I wanted it so bad. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I got rejected.
I got rejected too.
Then 2 years later, I'm back from Hawaii in Columbus, and in my sophomore year, and my art teacher, which I can't remember her name because I'm so crappy, but like bless her heart, old white lady, really old. Like I'm talking about like 80, you know, like really, really old, you know, like slow moving and everything. But she saw that I didn't pay attention to art class, and I wasn't doing what everybody else was doing. I was doing like pieces, graffiti pieces with a character at the end, dressed up, fly, drippy, because New Yorkers, right?
Exactly.
And she saw that, and she was like, "You should take some fashion classes at FIT." She got me a scholarship program to Fashion Institute of Technology to do fashion art for fashion design, and then the scholarship, which was only supposed to last for 2 terms, they ended up giving it to me for like 5 terms, which was like not allowed, but they just were like, everybody was taking to me, and all of this, you know, just to say, fuck art and design and fuck all those high schools that like said no to the art kids that ended up being the real artists, and then you sent trash artists to high school who didn't end up following their path because they were not passionate. They didn't have the passion. You're looking for the wrong things. You're fucking up. Look for the right things. Look for the fuck up kids that are doing, because that's probably where the art really is gonna lie, and that's where you really want to be. Not with like the fucking nerdy kid that this is great and then does the right lines the right way and all these things the right way. And that's not what art is.
That's not what art is.
With it too, like
I was wildly upset that they rejected me. I was like,
I mean, I was like, you rejected me.
But you know what? FIT accepted me, motherfuckers.
He's got like a really good point about what they look for and stuff, right?
No,
Like,
yeah.
it is like these weird, almost like academic norm-driven culture, but like when you really look at artists, there's like, well, like 95% of them have some serious issues they're all trying to work through and did not come from the stablest life, and like professional artists are a strange group of people, but like, so you gotta, you know, change the paradigms of letting people in. If the goal is to have your culture or your country produce great artists, which may
They're
not
not
be
thinking that far ahead. They just want the good kids because they don't want to deal with the drama.
They always
It's really about being lazy.
the same thing about creating a cop city instead of fixing the problems.
Yep. You know, they just want like a docile public that they can herd from
along
industry to industry according to what
they
labor
think,
they need. You know?
Exactly. Right. Because now that AI, now that robots,
soon
we're
dead.
Many industries will be
We're
dead.
No, we're dead as a society. Like the robots are gonna take us out. Y'all motherfuckers ain't see Terminator.
Facts. I'm very wondering like what's gonna end up happening.
You saw the
with AI
exec from Google who quit.
Yo.
That's your warning, bro. Start building your bunker now.
Tesla.
If you really want to talk about that pre-COVID, something like 450 tech CEOs of major companies almost all quit right before COVID started. I can't quote the source, but if you check into that, you'll be able to find it.
I'm telling you, dude.
Get me the links. She'll get me the links to
Oh,
pass
yeah.
you.
I'm supposed to give you stuff. Remind me the stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna when we edit it.
And when we edit it, also I'll be hitting you up for links.
I gotta.
You gotta go.
I feel like nobody ended up following up with links.
What am I up to now?
What are you
What
up
are
to
you
now?
up to now?
What
Thank
are
you.
up to
Thank you
right
for
now?
doing our job.
Right. Thank you for doing my job for me. Right.
Okay, I just had a solo show. So like now, you know, like in terms of political
show
work,
that I went to?
the show that I went to.
So I have pictures and footage that I can add to this as well from
Nice.
that I was going to use. I was gonna make a post, and then I was like, I got caught up, and then I was like, this is
Yeah,
gonna
I
work
was, I
out.
was like,
'Cause
I took pictures with Dutch. He didn't
Yes,
even.
I'm gonna use them in this interview. I'm gonna use them for this.
So I just had my first big solo show, some drawings and stuff. It was called Third World.
Damn,
Mistake,
I didn't use
Healing. In terms of political work, I'm mostly doing like political education here in the Bronx with some comrades. It's also
The thing is even she vetted it, and still none of us did it. All
really just
three
sort
of
like
us.
laying low and like, you know, building a political fabric again, because 2020 was a year of a lot of just like repression from the police, you know.
Right.
And Chris,
So
who
just doing that,
edited
and
it.
then,
Shout out Chris.
I'm making big ass drawings. That's
Shout
what
out Chris.
These boards are for. I put up black paper on the board and then I draw on those with color pencils. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just like mostly making drawings and reading, you know.
We're living
Yeah,
in
you know, because
fast
like there's
times.
such a direct relationship between the shit that I read and what I decide to make work about. I always make work about my community, but I'm always trying to like think about the ways we live together through that work. And so and like right now I'm gonna make some, like my drawings, I call them mixtapes. So
I was gonna ask you could you a little bit of explanation
Sure,
on the
sure,
idea
sure.
behind the actual
so
one
what's a
that I went to?
mixtape? So what's a mixtape? A mixtape is like a collection of songs that form a theme, right? Usually like you're like in love with some shit and you're trying to like get some panties or whatever. You know, so
mixtapes.
you know what I'm saying? Like, or you're broken up and you're like sad and you want something to cry to.
Or
right?
the party mixtape.
So then like I base the drawings structurally off of like old Buddy Esquire hip hop flyers from like the late 70s, right? So they kind of have this architectural sort of frame. And then I sort of like, I take everything out and I repopulate it, thinking about, well, who is the Bronx now? So it's almost like an invitation to think about us together and how we live together. And who's the Bronx now? It's Garifuna.
Right.
You know, the fucking Bangladeshis,
right.
you know, Dominicans, Mexicans, like, and then like, who inherits all of the shit from the Bronx? This is the birthplace of hip hop. Not just the music, but also because the music was born out of a revolution. You see what I'm saying? Like we were remaking ourselves as a people at a time when they were trying to erase us. Right. You see what I'm saying? Like we couldn't fight the state blow by blow.
Right.
So we needed to turn to ourselves and create something to keep spirit alive. And that was hip hop culture.
Right.
Hip hop from below, not the commercial shit, but the fact that, you know, because look, even though they're able to co-opt and sell back to us what we make at such a fast pace now, the fact that it's still like the fact that an Ice Spice exists tells you everything you need to know about the fact that it generates from the people, that we are always thinking and making and thinking and making. And, you know, like, yeah, there's this desire to get plugged, but, you know, the urge to create, that's a life affirmation.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And so holding on to that shit. And so like the mixtapes bring us all together and make us a mixtape. Okay. You know?
I like that. Word. I was wondering, because I was like.
Did you get one of the booklets?
No,
from the show?
No.
I'm gonna give you one of the bootleg ones because I bootleg my own catalog.
That's dope. Let's go. We'll show on camera. I'll show the booklet. I'll show. We'll be during all this talking.
You're gonna be seeing it right now. You're already seeing it.
Yeah, you'll be seeing the.
And in reality, we are not seeing it.
You had a block party for
the closing of the show.
Yeah. And
shout out to Uptown Vinyl Supreme.
By the way, I love I'll talk to you.
Shaking a fist at
interview
myself.
with you.
Not even
I
you.
definitely want to touch
Shaking a fist at
Afro-Latinos, what it means.
I feel the same way. I'm like, all of us, let this get through.
Afro-Latinos and what it means. Oh my God.
Situation with Tariq Nasheed, kind of flagging this out. We talked about it. I talked to you about it on the phone.
We'll talk about it.
You gave me. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about.
I'm just not recognizing the acronym, but
we'll catch up with the rest of your life. We'll touch on what you're doing at that moment, and then we'll get into a lot of these topics that I think that you can bring a lot of like education to people that might not be educated on. And
let's be real, you can bring a lot of education to people like me that don't come from here. That
also,
because like as much as it's community building on your side of it, we are now still a globalized community. Something that bothers him is how my Canadian friends like to comment heavily on hip hop as though they're experts and authorities. While talking to a guy who grew up in Bronx, which is, if you understand,
yeah, like I got offended by it.
Kind of bizarre, you know, like.
Well, I'll say something about that, and then we can close there.
Okay. Yes.
Is that so? Something that really fucks with me is. like some of my white friends that like jazz music, like I tell them they're not allowed to talk to me about jazz.
Word.
Why? Because it got extracted and called a high art, and now is taught in like Berkeley School of Music and Juilliard and all this shit. But the people who actually created it, it's a folk music
Yes.
that comes from Harlem via the South. But like, you don't see kids, like if you look at South America, every kid, you throw a rock, every kid plays a guitar.
Right.
There's like a relationship with music that is inside the fabric of the people, except in New Orleans may be different.
Yeah.
You know, New Orleans has like that culture. But nobody in Harlem knows anything about jazz music, and that's like that's where the incubator of the shit was. You see what I'm saying? And so then like to think about it like, so then there's like, so I feel like that may be something about like hip hop aficionados who are able to sort of like recite every record, every year, every lyric because they love the thing.
Right.
But there is like, you know, but the people who created it in the geographic locations where they are created are removed from the creation aspect of it. They're only able to consume it when it gets sold back to them. So you know what I'm saying? Like, because hip hop is what it is, where it's just like you could just beat on the table and make it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit more accessible, which is why you have Ice Spice. You see what I'm saying? Whereas like, you know, maybe in the 30s and 40s, developing the technique, maybe through the church to like play a trumpet or like hit a piano is different. It's just like that kind of access to like music doesn't exist. I didn't become a musician because I didn't have money to access buying a keyboard. Because I wanted to play. Exactly.
It's all very expensive. A high threshold for entrance.
Exactly. So I think is that, but you know, to add to that idea, just to give you something to think about, like I went out a couple nights ago, and the party I was at, I was in Brooklyn, which means I was in some gentrifier shit, and the DJ was playing hip hop, but they were playing all Southern hip hop records. And I said to the person who I was with, I'm like, you probably don't recognize it because the person I was with from Chile. I'm like, you probably don't recognize this. You probably just hear rap music.
Rap music.
But to me, I'm like, this DJ is playing Southern music. Like, if it was New York hip hop, I would be like, it would be a different thing. You know what I'm saying? Because she was playing 90s Southern music.
Right.
Southern rap. So people were like, so all the black gentrifiers from Atlanta and the South were all like leaning with it, rock with it and all that. And you could see the nationalism coming out of them because they were like, oh, music from my country.
Area, where I'm from.
From where I'm from. Whereas like if it was New York rap, then it would have been a more of a different kind of thing.
Yeah, New York rap, you know what? Perfectly said.
Honestly,
and we're gonna leave it there.
Because we can keep going. I like to say, like, when talking to somebody like you, who is so knowledgeable about this, but also able to articulate it so succinctly
and so well,
like you're able to talk about the complicated subjects in a way that allows people who may not be able to fully receive that message from anyone due to ignorance and lack of vocabulary to be able to like hear it from a perspective that informs them rather than scares them. And it really, I think, is necessary to have folk like you get your ideas out into the world, because a lot of us need to be learning, like, yo, I'm Jewish and you be teaching me about Israeli history, you know, like it's really like interesting the way all these things tie together. And like, yo, she got like a fat stack of books up in this place, like she be knowledgeable, and they're like all on these kinds of topics. Like we're talking hundreds of shits. Like this isn't just like random. It's like a lifetime of education and study that you're like sharing. It's a big blessing. I just want to thank you for that, because this is
a big blessing.
Ill interview. Like,
yeah, I have been waiting. I've been reached out to you. This is something that I've been eagerly anticipating, and that's why I made mention of those topics, because that's really what I wanted to get to. But I also don't want to rush through any of this.
We can do a part. We'll do a round two.
Part two.
Wonderful.
We'll do a round two.
Do the say bye to the people for us.
Oh yeah, over here. So yeah, I've been mad at my cameras in person.
It's all good.
Appreciate y'all people of the internet watching it, because as much as we appreciate the conversation, it is a show, and you guys make it a show by watching. So shout out.
We can skip the final minute of the shout out because we're gonna have to do it over here for ourselves.
Hey, I'm over here looking at another old rhyme book, and I'm like, this is more from the era of like me and Jess James first hooking up. And yeah, man, there's like battle rap days rap book.
No, that's dope. I have a few things in my closet where I find them and I'm reading this, like, it's all very emo, but all these like lyrics I wrote I think up until 2014 or 15 I still hand wrote lyrics, and it was only then I really moved to the phone.
All very cocky, very confident. I've always been. And then inside the same bag of stuff that I'm looking for is my designs from when I was at FIT.
Yeah, that shit's hard though. That's really cool.
Crazy. Hold on, coming through. Come on, give me something different here. And somehow some of these got like water damage.
Kind of adds to the charm of it though. Like, I know it, like, the integrity of the papers matters and shit, but, like, somehow seeing the shit with, like, water damage makes it feel, like, older and more cool.
Styles that are like coming back around now, ironically, interestingly enough.
Yo, it's okay. Yo, you know what's crazy to me? What I'm having a lot of trouble with, or maybe not trouble with, but I was just having a meeting with a guy about clothing today, and he's like 21, and he was like bragging about how he just wears all this extra large baggy shit, like he sizes up and everything, and how like to him it's so cool to have giant baggy clothing, and I'm like, it's just so bizarre to me to feel like the trends of like the yesteryear are coming back in full force. It's like finally got used to wearing tighter clothing and now it's over.
Yeah, yeah, nah. So I mean, you know, don't worry, save it. It'll come back around. That's
Nah, I
fashion.
hear you.
Fashion
But
is
now it's
cyclical.
like everything's baggy, everything's big. I'm like, this is so wild. But yeah,
That's part of being fashionable and being involved in fashion is that fashion comes and goes and it doesn't last very long, the style. And in order to be fashionable, you got to keep up with the Joneses, essentially.
nah, I hear that. Especially because, yeah, I'm soon going to have all kinds of clothing available for sale, which is going to be a very dope thing. So all y'all watching can watch for that because I would love to sell you clothing. And if you're in America and it happens to cost 25% more, so be it. That's just the nature of the world we live in. Don't worry. One of our governments will get that money, and in theory, it should go back to us. That was a joke. But like, yeah, I don't know. Strange times coming. Sorry, I'm like, I jumped the gun now. I'm like, I'm gonna not wait until the tariffs are live to go ahead and buy some shit, because at some point Canada finna impose tariffs on clothing. It's coming because you guys are
You
gonna impose
definitely
tariffs.
should. You definitely should do your efforts now to cop some proper baggies. You know what? We need to start scheduling your trip down to New York so we could do a bunch of interviews. It's got to be more than just the weekend because we
Yeah,
can't really squeeze,
yeah.
you know. But like we need to do that so we could like interview a bunch of people, and in that I'll take you to. Didn't I take you to Century 21 before?
Yeah, it went there. Yo, actually, I
Yeah,
bought these shoes there. Hold on, just because I know
yeah.
some people talk shit about talking about money spending, right? So I spent like what $130 on these French Connection shoes. I wore them through all of the winter as my regular shoes because I'm not wearing boots and driving. It's miserable. And these shoes have held up so well. Like, it is one of the best
Show the
invest. Like,
people. Don't talk about it. Show
they're
them.
not even. They're in the next room. Like,
Okay,
I don't.
copy.
They're like they're the ones I use on my regular. They're my winter everyday shoes, and like they look fly and shit. But I'm just saying, like, yo, if you buy them Walmart shoes and shit, and you wear them in the winter, you're not surviving a Montreal winter, which is actually worse than all the other winters, is what we learned this year with our fucking blizzard. But like, all I'm saying is, yeah, everything I bought from the Century 21 held up very well and was like very nice. Forever
Yeah,
21, Century 21. I don't remember
Century
which one.
21. Forever
Century.
21 is the
Yeah.
fast fashion bullshit. Century
Right.
21 is the most elite
Yeah.
after out of season fashion department store. So when people think of like TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Nordstrom's Rack and things like that, um Century 21 is like the Bergdorf Goodman of those. And
So
you
the
don't know what
only
Bergdorf
the
Goodman is because
no,
you probably shopped at Nordstrom or what's the other
I mean,
uh
honestly, I don't know any of the, like, I've never shopped at most of that.
yeah, all those are trash. Bergdorf Goodman is the most elite. It's where Tiffany Breakfast at Tiffany was shot. It's like on Fifth Ave. It's an elite department store, and Century 21 is the most elite after fashion, like aftermarket,
Right.
after season, you know, you could get
But actually,
last season
I got
style
these
in
I got these like bright green pants there, right? And it showed me
bright
how
green
bad
pants. I remember.
Shein is, because these
Yeah.
pants retain their color after multiple rounds in the dryer, which I know whatever you're not supposed to do for nice shit, but whatever, we learned. But they held their color up. They didn't bleed no color. It's the same color as when I bought them. And honestly, that impresses. That's like, yo, I think they
That
were like
impresses
another
me.
$100, but like that's like, oh shit, that's what you're paying for, and that's what I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people realize. So like, even with the clothes
Nah.
I'm getting right now, I'm not getting like, I just bought 100 blanks. So like the shirts before the printing for anyone, and they're like the fucking thick cottons, like they're like them kind of shirts you want to wear, not like a Gildan, like the cheaper shit. I was
Yeah.
like, I touched it and I'm like, oh, I could sell this for money. Like it felt like I could sell it for more. So I was
We
like,
we we got our own, like, see, this has the groundwork logo
yeah,
in the on the tag. This shit is heavy duty. It's literally the same type of hoodies that Kid Cudi prints on, and a bunch of all major marks, and they sell these for like 100 plus $200 at show at the merch tables. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's what you
yeah,
always want to go for. You want to go for the
yeah.
most durable. And then
Yo,
also right
actually,
now, this is the style, right? No strings on the hoodie. You know what I mean? Hoodie, heavy duty, heavy as fuck,
honestly,
thick
I
as
don't know. And
shit,
I know that for hoodies, I have
no
to come
strings.
back to. They were like, listen, come to us with dimensions of what you want in a hoodie, and we'll make you a custom hoodie. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how to fucking make a custom hoodie. So I'm kind of like, that's a later problem. T-shirts I can
It's
handle
so
right now.
funny. It sounds like um I should be hooking you up with this company that prints this, which is like pretty basic, and that company that does. So you should be printing in America, and I should be printing in Canada, because I know what to do with all that. I'm like, what? So I could do asymmetrical cuts on my hoodie? What?
Yeah,
My
actually, yeah.
merch?
And he said it
What?
because they told me that it would be the same price point for the fancier blanks. So if I was just gonna get fancier blanks, it would be fucking dumb, and I should just come back to them with my
Do
own
an
cut.
asymmetrical zip, sideways zip, and
Yeah, you could do all that. I mean, you're probably gonna have to buy like 100 of them up front, but you could do all that.
and
I could absolutely link you up with these folk. Is all I'm
fucking
saying, and
twist my arm.
I'm just saying,
Word.
like
Nah, absolutely.
cause yeah, no,
Definitely do that.
but it's very exciting to me, cause like I don't know, I'm finding like I even got the tag for the back, so like when we print it, they're gonna cut off whatever, sew on my tag, and it's gonna be like official. Launch the Instagram page soon, like. Treat this wild serious, get like fucking multiple like, this week actually I have to get the original designs put together, which I've spent the last like 8 months trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with it, and it's finally happening. This is like a huge day for me.
Beautiful.
It's like
Congratulations.
when you drop money down, and that's when it's real now. It's like
Yeah.
there's no turning back after this moment. It's the order is made. Now it's just go time.
That's like the Liddy Bros. I just keep on ordering 100, 300, $340 for Liddy Bro bandanas, for 100 Liddy Bro bandanas. And I'm like, throw the money at them. Throw it at them. I need these. I always need these. I need to keep on. These are
No, this is
some of the littiest fucking merch. Everybody brags about it. Does
I
Chris
know.
Does CC have one? CC got one,
I
right?
don't think Cece, do you have one? I know you just said boom boom, so you're there. Do you got one of these?
Man, I hope so. Next time that you come down, I'll send
Chris
you
is
back
like, what? I'm supposed to have one and I don't?
word. That's a sin. When you come
Nah.
down,
So when
I'll
I
send you
come
back
down, CC might come with me if we can time it right. And then that way
word.
you can. Although we got to be careful about spending money depending on this tariffs, or at least when we in the store, we have to remember it's going to cost more when I hit the border.
That's if you fucking announce shit. Stop being a
I
little
don't.
fucking.
I don't know. I think it's about to get different. I think whatever we had in the past is about to change, and I'm not. I don't know how much
Word.
I want to
They're
play.
gonna they're gonna strip you down, huh? You know,
Yeah, honestly, like we all,
asshole.
because here's the thing: we're not talking about the American side. We're talking about the Canadian side, who's gonna be on some fuck shit. Like, oh, you're a Canadian who spent money in the States, bitch. Let me look at your luggage right now. Like, I'm not sure I want to fuck with it too much, because I'm not sure how it's gonna go in like 4 or 5 months. It could get real eerie.
You, CC. I got you, CC. No worries,
Yeah,
bro.
I still think Chris should come down, and then we'll figure that out.
Yeah. Well, next week we'll work on just talking with the public about our shit, update, and telling them how much we failed at actually executing.
Everything.
And
I mean, in all fairness to us, we also told them that we're like doing expensive shit in our lives and hustling for money, and that was gonna always be the priority. So while we did fail, it's not like an abandonment. It's more like you want us with all of our shit in order, hitting it 100, like having the resources to be able to hire the people we need when it comes, rather than, because we spent a lot of money. That's a fact, and there's no recoup on that money. We did ask people to join the Patreon. Unfortunately, nobody did. So, shout out Lindell. Lindell been there forever, but like it didn't really
shout
do
out
anything.
To you, Lindell. We appreciate you. We genuinely do.
Absolutely.
That's why even if I get annoyed at something that you say, keep on asking it. You got every right, Lindell. Let me tell you something. This is one of those things. This is one of those things where, like, you know how like this is our home, technically speaking, because we built this home. Well, we couldn't have built it. We couldn't have built this home without the tools and materials that we did use, and a majority of those tools. If there's anybody who has a claim over the house, you got claim over
for
that.
sure.
You could,
like one day,
if we tell everybody else to take their shoes off at the door, and you're the type that's like, nah, I don't feel like it. You, out of everybody, can come in with your shoes on and put your feet up on the coffee table and be like,
that's a fact.
I helped build this fucking coffee table, okay? I put in fucking snaps on the petrol. You know what I mean?
And trust.
You put snaps on the petrol. So shouts to you, Linda.
Going to New York is expensive.
If you're still around. If you're not still around, hopefully you catch this on the replay.
For sure he's there. I believe it. I think his comment will pop up in about 4 or 5 minutes maybe, but he there. But yeah, so we definitely want to come to New York, and it would definitely have to be fall probably, because I'm supposed to go to Nashville in June. And so, actually, you made a comment one time about my brother on social media, and it turned out he is on social media, but I had him blocked. So I unblocked him. I don't know why I blocked him.
What comment did I make?
It was something about, like, I'd mentioned my brother, and you're like, why do you never tag him on shit? And I'm like, valid. And then it was just a random throwaway comment you made just randomly because you were curious.
I'm always making good commentary.
And then I looked into it, and I had blocked him. I don't know why, but we fight. So I could see how he was talking shit, and one day I blocked him.
Stop fucking fighting with your brother, man. Grow up.
I did. So I'm leading there to...
you only have each other, man.
I know.
You have other people.
I mean,
you also have the family you built. And, listen.
But
you get on my goddamn nerves. I talk shit about you to your face. I don't talk shit about you behind your back. I talk shit to your face about you.
You do, yes.
You know what I mean? But let me tell you something. Like, at this point, we're 5 years in, buddy. You know what I mean? This is the family you build. You know what I mean? And I love my family. I love my blood family. But I also love the family that I've built. Facts. And you're now a part of the family that I've built. You know what I mean? But it's also don't fucking throw away your brother.
I'm leading somewhere with that. So I didn't realize he was blocked. So I unblocked him. I hit him up. We started chopping it up. Because, again, there's no bad blood. We actually had seen each other in real life. But things that I can't talk about, actually, so the rest of this is redacted too. I'll be in Connecticut in June. Unrelated to my brother. Wink. But yeah. Anyway, I realized
I don't get your fucking covert talk.
Well, I just started saying some shit, and then it was like, oh, I can't actually say this online, so I'm gonna not say it online. But all that to say, it's fantastic news for him, and I'm gonna be in the States maybe twice in June. So
I might end up fucking, I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to make any promises, but I definitely want to go back up to Montreal.
Yeah, no. If you came up here, maybe there's some shit we could pull up here and find some people like guys like Lil Pesci would be really interested in it. So
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
There's definitely that, but for me going down, probably like just you know, probably fall would be more realistic in my life.
Well, next week we'll live set up some dates.
Right. And then Chris is overhearing all this, so he can start thinking in his head about the wonderful times ahead.
And Lindell did comment, my AirPods are down to 20%. Lindell did comment, he said still here. Hopefully, Lindell, you heard what we said. We want you to feel appreciated because we genuinely do appreciate you. Every week that you show up, every time that you drop a comment, man, it's genuinely appreciated from the bottom of my heart, man. Don't ever get that shit twisted. Like I'm always big on genuinely appreciating the people that support me in my life. And I know that you're not supporting me, technically speaking. You're here supporting Holden because you know
you're included in that.
No, but I know that I am included in that. You know what I mean? And that's why I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, apart from the bottom of Perspective's heart. My headphones just went from 20% to 0%. I don't know what the fuck is happening with my headphones.
Honestly,
I gotta upgrade my fucking
like real
iPhone,
quick.
my iWatch, and everything.
Yeah, but just to touch on that real quick, like, you know how like there's that comment saying like, "Yo, who asked for this?" Well, in all cases, I know Lindell asked for this, and it's not a lie. And Lindell's in Florida, never met him, so. In all cases, that has motivated me throughout the years to know, well,
yo, shouts out to Florida because you know what? Another person who supports us, a great friend of mine, supporter of Liddy Bros, is JoJo Nitty on Facebook, which is also known as Ty, also known as Liddy Bro Nitty. And you know, he's from the Bronx, but he was just living in Florida for like the majority of us doing Perspective. So shouts out to Florida. Shouts out to Lindell. Big shouts to
Florida's
Lindell.
dope.
Big
I've
shouts
been looking into that.
Big shouts to Liddy Bro Nitty. And shouts out to everybody who ever came on and watched
that's a fact.
episode. We genuinely appreciate everybody. Absolutely.
But it's apparently cheaper for me to fly to fucking Florida than it would be for me to fly to New York City. Makes no sense, but it's a fact.
Florida, let me tell you something. Florida and Texas, they find the slickest ways to be like, just come here. Just come get some tax breaks. Come enjoy. They're like, come to us. It's like, no, Florida and Texas, you also have racism. Booming. But
Florida's I guarantee you though, if I went to Florida right now and I just said bonjour and I just said that out loud, all these Quebecers would turn around and be like, my people, because like, yo, there's so many Quebecers who are in Florida right now. Maybe not where Lindell's at, but where it's like nice and shit. Because Lindell said he's not in like the hot parts; he's in like the northern parts, I think.
Oh, so then he's closer to like the Jacksonvilles, if I'm not mistaken. Jacksonville's near the top. I remember being on tour with Brian McKnight and being baffled at the fact that Florida had 4 stops as a state. It was Miami, Orlando, Tampa, and yeah, I was right. Jacksonville at the top. Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando, and then Miami. Those were the stops where we stopped. That was where the big 4. Those were the big 4 cities in Florida at the time back then. I don't know if it still stands, but yeah, Jacksonville. Lindell, one day hopefully we could argue this back and forth in person. If we're ever in Florida, I will definitely make an effort to like link up with you and have lunch, breakfast, dinner, something, one meal at the very least. You know what I mean? Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then, I'm gonna
let's get out of here. Let's get out.
I'm hungry as fuck. All right, appreciate y'all. Thank you again for watching. Those of you who are still with us, we appreciate you. We'll be back again next week with some updates, and then we'll be figuring shit out until we. Well, that's just the future. Y'all know what it is. Have a good night, everyone. Live long and prosper, everyone. I'm just gonna go start the raid because I didn't get that set up. So I'm gonna dilly dally for a whole of like 2 seconds right here.
I feel like jumping in and stealing the raid from you, but nah, I won't.
Boom. It's done. This girl's just playing some old ass video game. And we're out.